Welcome to the Gold Summit. You're all gonna be proud to say you were here tonight.
My father's legacy is dead.
The steak up.
Steak fried.
Hey, don't do that.
You know it's time for me to get down it!
Oswald Cobb, what a guy. What a little bitch.
You heard it up top. Get ready to crank the Nirvana because we're returning to the dark and dreary Batmaniverse as we discuss the Penguin. You're on Normies Like Us with your hosts, Colin Maroney.
Oh, it's going to be Micah Tormaroni. Good to be in the fam.
Yeah, my name's Jawswald Cobblepot. Oh, wait, no, that's not grounded enough. You can call me Jaws Cobb.
Okay, fair. I won't, but...
Okay,
The studio mandated
I'm going to call you the Penguin.
Jaws, of course. You are the Penguin.
Mm-hmm. I got my plum lighting set. You know?
You've got the purple for the Penguin. I've got red for my boy, Battinson, who's not in this show, in case you were wondering.
No. Hardly anybody. Nobody, maybe?
Well, there's a couple.
Well, except for, you know,
there's the
our main
police
guy.
chief. There's the mayor, Bella Real.
Yeah.
Side characters.
Of course, because we're talking about the extended, incredible universe of the Batman. The 2022. What the hell year is it now? Right, 2 years ago. Is that when that came out?
2022. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
Matt Reeves' grounded crime Batman universe. We had the Riddler, Paul Dano, you know, leaving clues, Errata Elada, you know, whatever. We love it.
That's right. Errata Elada.
And I picked that in our draft as my Batman entry. I picked that
That's
as my
right.
specific
That's right.
Batman movie. I'm a big fan of that.
Well, it's a movie that we all like, I think.
Mhm.
And it's a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
Yep.
excited to hear if you're a big fan of this series as we're talking about the Max original 2024's The Penguin.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, spoilers for that whole show, all 8 episodes, because there's some major twists and turns that it's taken. So if you haven't seen it, do it. Or if you don't care, keep listening. But I want to ask you guys, because, you know, we've been talking about a little bit of fatigue with superhero franchises. Were you excited when this was announced initially for Colin Farrell to return as the Penguin? Jacob, how did you feel?
No, I didn't really care that much. I mean, I liked him in the movie. I thought the makeup and the, you know, effects were good, obviously, but I was like, I just don't see a show based around this guy as something I'm going to really care about. But maybe I did, maybe I didn't.
Yeah.
Colin, how about you?
Well, you know, the last comic book thing we talked about was Agatha. I think either the same day or literally the same week those two shows premiered. And Jacob, you very famously kind of got to them before any of us. And you sent out a text that said, hey, I watched both the pilots of these things. Let me tell you, Penguin a million times better than Agatha. And then it seemed like you lost interest in Penguin and gained steam with Agatha, surprisingly.
So it is weird. Yeah, I watched both pilots on the same day. They came out the same week. And yeah, I liked my initial impression was that I liked the Penguin more. But as we know from the Agatha episode, I started liking the Agatha more after episode 1. And the weird thing is I didn't watch episode 2 of the Penguin until I had actually finished the entire season of Agatha.
Like a month
kind of put
later.
it on hold. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was watching a lot of spooky movies. I was traveling. So I was like, I didn't have time to really get into the Penguin until this past week when I finished up the series.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There felt like a lot of other things stealing my attention, and I felt like kind of a latecomer to this as well. But how about you, Mike? As a mega fan of Battinson, were you stoked to see Colin Farrell sit down in a makeup chair for 3 hours and transform into this character every week?
Honestly, I gotta say, no. And I've been maybe most vocal on superhero fatigue generally, but it's like, I couldn't see a world where it works or it's worth it. I'm like, is this just going to take away from the Battinson movie? Does it dilute that universe? I had those kind of concerns going in, but I ended up binging it, you know, so I did get kind of hooked by it, and we'll go into more detail, but I wasn't excited initially.
You binged it, but you didn't watch it right when it came out. Like you basically started watching it after the whole season had aired, basically.
I watched it over the course of 2 days, 2 sessions, like half and half.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're slowing down, guys. It's interesting that these superhero things again aren't dominating our consumption anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and I thought the way we'll talk about the plot and everything, but I felt the pacing of this, it felt a little bit like I wasn't able to binge it because I just kind of I was telling you guys like I could do one episode a day and I sort of lost patience with it. And I was like, because they're long episodes too. They're like an hour each. I was like, okay, I got my fill of the Penguin today. So I basically watched it over the course of a week and watched one episode a night essentially.
Yeah. It seems like it, because it was airing week to week, like a lot of HBO marquee shows do. And I can see like the structure of the episodes. Like it did lend itself, I guess, if you watched it week to week, to have a conversation on Twitter, like about what's going on, so,
yeah.
But
we'll talk about, Agatha versus this a little bit later on, because I do want to ask you guys, and don't answer now, but which one do you like better? Which one do you think succeeded more and stuff? Obviously a very different tone. This one's again the grounded universe of Matt Reeves' Batman on HBO, and it's this crime thriller drama, so it's very different from the tone of Agatha, which was lighter at times.
It is very different. It's very different than other superhero stuff. But a question I have to ask you about your guys' personal background, something we've kind of never talked about before. It's reminiscent of a little show called The Sopranos. And I want to know if you guys have ever seen that show.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, I have seen The Sopranos. One of my favorite shows of all time. One of the best written shows of all time. I'll just say.
Do you feel cool when you tell people you like The Sopranos and The Wire? Does that make you feel like a big man, Jacob?
It does. It makes me feel very elitist. No, but nice. Honestly, I totally saw that as well. The inspirations that this show takes from specifically those two shows, Sopranos and The Wire. It's hard not to notice that if you've seen both of those shows, which I have. And I don't want to say, again, we'll get into the quality and what we thought and everything, but it's if you like The Penguin, I would recommend, if you've never seen Sopranos or you've never seen The Wire, I think those are totally worth checking out. Two of the best shows of all time, in my opinion.
Wow. Now, Mike, have you ever taken a trip to the Pine Barrens? Have you seen Sopranos?
So I tried to dip my toes. I've watched the first 2 episodes. Like,
oh, wow.
I like the premise. I just never kept rolling with it. Like, I like the, I'm a mobster, gabagool, but I go to therapy. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I like the hook.
Well, you analyze this and analyze that, Mike. That's why you never got into this.
Wait a second now. Let me just say that I understand, if you never got into it based off of just seeing a couple episodes in season 1. Season 1 is the worst season of The Sopranos. Like, I don't think it's bad, but it's like a lot of shows, they're still finding their footing of what the show was in season 1. So I think it does get better if you stick with it. And for a lot of people, like if you get like 5 episodes in, you may get hooked on it and then watch the whole thing. But
okay.
And again, it changed television history back, in the 2000s. Like it was a huge, huge, huge thing for television, and ushered in the golden era of television. Your Breaking Bads, your Mad Men,
right?
All these type of shows would probably not even be a thing without this.
Anti-heroes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Something that might be the star of this show, in fact. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting conversation about that maybe at the end of this too, because I did want to bring up some of those marquee shows that this kind of is running against. But we'll get to it. But I might go back to The Sopranos now. I might give it a shot because maybe I have an appetite for crime.
You totally should, and The Wire,
cool
which
accents.
I think is also excellent. Just 2 really well written shows, and they don't dumb things down for you, which I think a lot of that's a problem maybe with some modern TV where they have to dumb it down. It's almost a literary sort of perspective, the way these shows are written, where it's like a great American novel or something. So
yeah, but James Gandolfini never sings "Ballad of the Witch's Road."
Yeah, that's true. It might be better with a song, but
they need more singing. The Sopranos and nobody's singing and nothing. Come on.
The altos, that's the show I'm pitching.
I like the tenors. Yeah, the basses. Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. Well, Sopranos singing, birds sing, penguins a bird, transitions, something this or that. Should we get into it? The full spoilers on season 1 of The Penguin coming up
Wow,
right
wow, wow,
after
wow,
this.
wow, wow, wow.
Wow, wow,
Wah
wow,
wah
wow.
wah.
Gotta mix the flavors together, Vic.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, talking The Penguin, Max's new original series. We're going to be talking about the Batman universe. We're going to be talking about this specific show. Jacob was just holding up his Batman Beyond Funko Pop for our viewers at home. He's also wearing a The Batman t-shirt.
That's
Very
right.
cool.
Ave Maria.
Oh,
there
that's very Trump coded. I thought you were going to do Nirvana. You just scared
That's
me.
another
off.
one, but I'm the
But-
Riddler, baby.
Before we
Right.
start, I guess the thing I just realized I want to ask you guys too. Do you guys like the Penguin as a character who goes up against Batman? Obviously, we talked Tim Burton's version of this character
Danny,
earlier this year.
our boy,
Mhm.
Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
like-
think I like the
I like
penguin
that
Danny
interpretation.
DeVito. Right.
Yeah.
You like a monster over an aristocrat or
A
something?
monster who lives in the sewers and eats fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my
I
penguin.
like that. That's my penguin. With his weird hands. I guess like the aristocrat version, I never really was exposed to much, but I don't like that idea of like, oh, just an evil Batman. Like just a rich guy who's bad. Like I don't know.
Right.
That's
Have you
like-
ever seen like the long cigarette chomping '60s version, Mike?
only in pictures because of this series
Yeah.
circulating now, but I never really watched the Adam West
Yeah.
era show.
Not
so.
too much,
Meredith
but
Burgess.
the other penguin that I really know is obviously the one from the Batman the Animated Series, which is definitely your top coat wearing, monocle, rich guy.
Cobblepot.
Cobblepot, yeah.
Flashback 2, and Jacob, I'm sure you'll talk a lot about certain animated series, but you in your long DC watch that you did this year of all your animated content, is there any
Yeah.
one of those where like the Penguin is the villain? I don't think so. He's not a super popular character, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think so. Actually, I did watch, of course, the Batman versus Dracula, this is the animated series, The Batman, not the movie,
Mhm.
The Batman.
Oh, sure.
Which, if you remember, that's the series that came after the animated series that we know the best. It's got the sort of weird Joker depiction with like dreadlocks and stuff. Very weird.
Mm.
I like that series.
Yeah. And in that movie versus Dracula, he is sort of a supporting character, but he's not the main villain, obviously. He's not Dracula. But yeah, so that's the only one I can think of that he
Batman
really featured.
Sub-Zero, I mean, that's like a Mr. Freeze movie. There was never one where
Yeah.
they were like, well, let's just have the Penguin be in this. It was like, no, not really.
I think it's
Yeah.
always been one where they're like, we don't know how to translate this to a more grounded world, like a Matt Reeves. Obviously, their way to do it was this Colin Farrell version, who was a very grounded version. He doesn't wear the top hat and suit, or does he? Stay
Doesn't
tuned.
have the umbrella. So grounded, he can't have his real name.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oswald Cobb instead of Oswald Cobblepot.
Oscobb.
Oz Cobb.
Yeah.
And again,
And
they
in
did
this-
this in the movie with the Riddler, Edward Nashton instead of
Mhm.
Edward Enigma, of course. They
Right.
thought that was too silly. I don't know. How do you guys feel about this? I think they should just keep the real names, personally.
I mean, I'm fine. Like, if people call him Oscob, but like you could just say like on paper it's Cobblepot. Like that's fine too. You don't need to like.
Yeah.
But I guess
I will say it is very funny that like he's like the most Italian man ever, and his name is Oswald Cobblepot or Oz Cobb, which isn't really an Italian sounding name, but that's
no, it should
okay.
have been Cobagool.
Yeah.
You know.
I like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
The thing
Oz
about this
Gabagool.
universe is it seems like almost every character that does do small little silly things is shocked when they do get called out for it. Like the look on Robert Pattinson's face
Yes.
when he's like, "No, I'm vengeance," and they're like, "Well, no, we call you Batman because you dress up like a bat," and he's like, "No, call me Vengeance."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their Riddler was a very grounded, I guess, take on the Riddler. I don't know if he even called himself the Riddler or
I think
like,
just the
that's what
chat room.
people
I think
called him.
that's the whole, yeah.
Maybe the media was like running headlines with that, but he never called himself the Riddler. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That would be silly.
And like this show, it serves as being kind of an origin of the Penguin and a sequel to that movie. Because, we're pretty
Yes.
much dealing with the fallout
Right.
of the Riddler's plot where he blows up the seawall and it floods up,
Right.
part of Gotham and that whole
Crown
thing.
Point.
Yeah,
And
Crown
nobody
Point's
goes
the
to Crown Point. That's where all, you don't want to be in Crown Point. It's a bad place.
Nobody cares about Crown
Um,
Point anymore. Yeah.
and this leads to my maybe biggest problem with the show, which is, maybe something we were all asking watching this show set in Gotham in the Batman world. Where's Batman? All this crime's happening. Where's Batman? He should be doing Batman things, no?
Fair. I mean, spoilers for the whole series, but there's a
Yeah.
gang war happening. There's a lot of crime going down.
A whole
There's
drug
no
war happening,
Batman.
No, I don't think that would draw the eye of a masked vigilante.
No,
My
he's
guess
too
is-
busy being emo and sulking in his
Fucking
mansion, I guess.
Catwoman or something.
Yeah, I know. I turned that motorcycle around and I went and found her. That's what I would
Yeah,
have
you
done
kidding? I
immediately.
left. I'm out of here.
I'm not.
Of course,
I'm
the
out of town right
last
now.
shot of this show is the bat signal, right? So that's our first reference really to Batman. But otherwise, I felt like all this mob stuff going down, all these people killing each other. Like, why is Batman not swooping in? And I understand
Well,
why he's not in the
He's
show, but
Right.
got that butler, if you guys recall, that talking ape named Caesar who gets blown up. Is there a chance that he's like trying to fix him and nurse him the entire time and his attention is just drawn away?
wait, who?
This guy named Caesar Pennyworth. Remember the
Oh,
Oh,
right.
yeah, I forgot who was Alfred in the
Caesar
Batman movie.
is your butler.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis, of course. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I get functionally why he's not here, and I actually appreciate that he's not. Like, I think that would have taken away from the focus of the
Well,
show,
what's he
which
doing?
is
What's he
he's
preoccupied
with
with?
Selena Kyle. He's with
He's
Selena
nursing
Kyle.
his monkey back to health. His monkey got blown up. It's a horrible thing.
Just seems like there's a
He's-
power vacuum in the aftermath of this big terrorist attack on the city. Seems like a masked vigilante could be doing some stuff. I don't know.
There's something in the way. I don't know what, but
Oh boy.
But yeah.
So kind of mixed thoughts, Jacob. First impression, I guess, to say your overall opinion on the
Well,
series.
I'll say I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. I
Mike,
maybe didn't like it as much as some other people, but
Mike, you're the Batman super fan. How did you feel about this thing? Doing a full watch?
Yeah, again, going into it, not really that excited. By the end of it, I love it. I thought it was great. And I think similar to Agatha all along, it's something that by the time you watch the last episodes, it makes the initial episodes better to rewatch because of the information you get. It like kind of adds layers to the story. So they're kind of similar in that way, where the longer you go into it, the more compelling the first half becomes, even if your first time getting up to speed maybe takes a minute. Like once you get these revelations, you're like, damn, like there's a lot more layers to this story onion that they've cooked up. But what did you think?
Well, I agree with you in that it builds and builds and builds, but by the end of this thing, we'll talk about the ending, but I really had a problem where I kind of said out loud to myself, well, that's one of the most successful things I have ever seen, in that it is the quote unquote origin story of a villain. And so many of these shows that claim like they're the Suicide Squad, they're, the evilest people in the world, you're going to hate them by the end. It's like, well, you don't really, movies have to be likable. By the end of this, I was like, I don't ever really want to see this character again. I kind of hate him. So.
yeah. Well, it does an interesting thing, obviously, where there's the Marvel villains of like, oh, Killmonger was right, like, Thanos was right, whatever. This is something they're doing where the Penguin is not right.
No, he's
Make
insane.
villains wrong again, right?
Well,
So this movie
Sony,
about
can Craven be a
people.
hero? No.
That's
Right.
And yes, and Venom gets
Yeah.
his own shot and all this stuff, Mike. That's so true that they've gone the total op. They've embraced what Jacob is saying of like you're not so different, you and I, and it's like
Yeah.
no.
They have to make them likable or sympathetic
Yeah.
in some way. With this one, it's like you want to like the Penguin at various parts in the show, and then at every turn he reminds you why you shouldn't like him.
Yeah.
And really, it's a show all about bad people trying to convince themselves that maybe they're not bad, but then realizing that they are bad after all. And I think that goes with Sophia Falcone too. where they're just, different versions of the same. Like they're both bad people, and they justify what they do in different ways. But at the end of the day, it's just, these people don't change, I guess, is the message.
Right. Well, what I enjoy about this, and spoilers again, getting into it, like it's this kind of seesaw of Chris and Milioti, um, and
Yes.
her arc. So it's like she was born into a crime family, yet wanted to do good, and then was wrong. So it's kind of her seesaw from trying to do good for the community
Yes.
to being a gangster. Then you have Cobb, who is just kind of middle class average, and then decides
Right.
just to be
Trying
evil.
to make something of his life,
He wants
but
to
basically
appear
throwing
as a
everyone under the
man of the
bus
people, but he's
Yeah.
not really where she was.
But he'll
Everything
he'll
about him
throw
is
anyone under the bus at a moment's notice
Yep.
to get an edge or something. But Sophia is interesting because she's convinced that she's not a bad person. She's not crazy. It's just these outside forces that made her crazy. Her dad,
Right.
sent her to prison and all this stuff. But then what does she do? She kills her entire family, right? Spoiler alert.
Well, right.
She gasses the whole Falcone family. I mean, is that what, so that's kind of confirming that she is a bad person, that she would just kill her whole family because they, wrote letters about her being mentally unwell or something. Well, I think this might back up the theory that she is mentally unwell. So
there's also like
I
a
don't know.
nature nurture question. It's like 'cause she
Yeah.
was trying to do philanthropy and then became traumatized after 10 years of abuse in Arkham, and then it's like, you know what, fuck it, I'll embrace this identity, as opposed to Cobb, who's just like a shithead from the start. So it's like a fall from grace
Yeah.
to a like staying in the shit.
But she was born into privilege, into a
Right.
rich crime family, trying to do good, but ultimately falling back into, what her family does. Whereas Cobb was a nobody, working class stiff who had to make his way up to the top, but threw
Right.
everyone under the bus to get there. Yeah.
Right. So I like kind of the slow reveal of the origins of Cobb too, because the show kind of makes you want to root for him. Like it's able to write him in a
Mhm.
way where sometimes like, oh, this guy's clever, or maybe he's sincere, and it takes a
Yeah.
while for them to really hit that note. But Colin, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's having never seen The Sopranos as well. It's what I would
Mhm.
imagine is quite a bit like The Sopranos in that at the end of the day, the thing seething underneath these horrible gangsters is that they do commit these crimes. They are real people. You're supposed to be humanized. The relationship with his mother. I like you, Mike. I think it's very fascinating that we actually don't get flashbacks or an in-depth look at the quote-unquote origins or why Oz is the way he is until basically the last episode or the second to last
7 or
episode,
8,
right?
yeah.
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 But the Machiavellian undertones. I mean, it is just. It's something else. I mean, this is not a Walter White. Walter White does not end the series, strangling Skylar to death. This is
Right.
Right. When
much
you have these
grimmer.
moments, of course, with the character of Victor, you think, oh, he's, Oz taking Victor under his wing, almost like a surrogate son or a family member. You
Mhm.
see, oh, he is sympathetic. He's obviously sees something of himself in Victor. He's disabled. He's got a club foot. Victor has a stutter, so he's like,
Mhm.
oh, he's like me, right? So he takes him under his wing. They bond over the series, and that's what makes that final episode so like
Yeah.
emotionally gut wrenching, because of, you realize, oh, he is actually just a piece of shit the whole time.
Yeah, and using
Um,
Victor as the POV, like, oh, this is our introduction into the Penguin's world, and you can kind of
Yeah.
see from his point of view, like, oh, Oz, like, he likes gangsters that help people in the neighborhood. Maybe he's not all bad, but
It's interesting in the storytelling too that Victor, I mean, we get his backstory, episode 3 or episode 4, something like that. Sophia, we get her backstory. It just very often feels like Oz is this character looming in the edges. He's someone, again, that we don't fully understand. Somebody obsessed with myth making, the Rex Calabrese, all these stories, these people he models himself after, and yet
yeah.
boy, he when he's unveiled, when the rug is finally pulled, it's just so different. I mean, is this character what you would have assumed he is based on what we saw in The Batman? To me, he feels very different, but also not, in that it's He
Well,
seemed conniving in
Yeah.
that movie, but this is, I mean, it's just full on. He's a menace.
Hmm.
I don't think we really knew about enough about him in the movie to make a determination because he just didn't get that much characterization as a supporting character. So I kind of, this goes more into his background and stuff and his relationship with his mom and all that.
Right. I mean, you get that he's got the silver tongue. He can talk his way out of anything. You get that kind of in the Batman movie. And he is
Yeah.
spending a majority of the present day plot of this maneuvering in the post Riddler Gotham, trying to climb up the ladder. Now that Falcone is dead, there's a power vacuum kind of opening up. So he's trying
Right.
chaos is a ladder, right? But I love the
Yeah.
opening scene. I think it's brilliant writing because it shows when he confronts, what's the son?
Alberto.
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 He confronts Alberto Falcone, who's inherited the kingdom essentially, and just
Yeah.
this whole conversation about like, well, one, he's trying to steal the jewels and he's talking his way out of it. It's this whole thing, but they tell you just exactly who the Penguin is in that one scene. Like he loves myth making, he's conniving, and he's petty because
And he can lose his
Alberto makes
temper.
fun of him and he loses
Yeah.
his temper and kills him. So you know, like he's petty.
And that's
he wants this stuff and he never changes.
absolutely, that's something that comes up again and again. He'll lose his temper and do something, drastic that
Hmm.
gets him more in trouble. And he does that a couple times throughout the series where he's kind of digging his own grave in a way.
Right. And they
but I wanna
flirt
ask you
with
guys-
it.
yeah.
So a couple
Go ahead.
times they walk it like, oh, maybe he's sympathetic, but like every time without fail, all the way to the end, he's like, no, he's just a petty, selfish asshole. And to commit to that, where many shows and movies don't, I respect it for that. Just showing their hand in episode 1 and never, it's
And-
our fault for being tricked. Like they said, this is the Penguin.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first scene, he kills Alberto Falcone, who you think is going to be sort of a main character in this show. And let me ask you guys this. So this is obviously involving the crime families of Gotham, the Maronis, the Falcones. What do you guys think about these? Do you like the corrupt crime families of Gotham type stories? We saw it in Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. We saw the Maronis and the Falcones a lot. What do you guys think about that?
Every time there's a year one, Frank Miller's very famous comic, it seems like they have to pit Batman versus the mob. It's been in the comics, it's been in the movies.
show how
as you
corrupt
just said,
Gotham
It's been in
is.
the animated stuff. And then they always use that as the linchpin to talk about escalation of, well, once you remove that, and once there was this character in a mask, you started fighting clowns and riddles and all this stuff. I've never loved it because I've always just wanted to get to that fun stuff. I don't care about Italian guys saying like, Maron, mama, get me those meatballs. It's that's ridiculous.
It does make sense in this grounded, realistic Gotham that the Matt Reeves world wants to portray. I'll recommend, so there's the animated movie based on the comic, The Long Halloween, which this show and the Batman were very inspired by elements of The Long Halloween. And that deals extensively with these crime families. Alberto and Sophia are characters in that. Sophia is the hangman in the comics. Instead of being framed in the show, it's a little bit different, but she is actually the hangman. And they're trying to find the calendar killer there's Calendar Man in Arkham who's involved too, but there's the holiday killer who kills people only on holidays throughout the year, and they're all connected to this crime war that's going on. So Bruce Wayne has to figure that out. He's working with a DA named Harvey Dent. You might have heard of him. And things escalate. So there's a lot of The Long Halloween in this show for sure.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm not a big DC person growing up, so I don't have a ton of exposure to the crime families and this and that, but I enjoyed this as kind of, I guess, an intro for someone like me who doesn't know a lot about it. Like, I felt like this was a good vehicle to explore those things that maybe a movie with Batman in it would be kind of a waste of time doing the mob level stuff. Just let the Penguin do it.
Yeah.
Well, we did. I mean, we get that in the Batman. We get John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. Not in this show.
So much so in the Jacob and you again with your DC rewatch were so pilled on that stuff, and when you watch The Long Halloween, I remember you saying like, well, if the movie mined so much of the story of it, what the fuck is this show gonna be? And you're kind of like, yeah, that's crazy to kind of do it twice, but very different, and obviously a very big twist and turns. My issue with this universe is the scene where Oz Cobb is literally standing in front of people and being like, so the Italian wops are against us, but the Yakuza, the Irish, we can all
Triad,
come together. Where I'm
Irish,
like, what the fuck? How many gangs are in
But that is
Gotham?
kind of how
What
Gotham
is
is.
Right.
Yeah, they have the Triad, which are like the Asian gangs, and they have the Irish gangs, and they have like different street
That's
gangs and
so
stuff.
much crime. Batman
It's
can
Gotham,
never
baby.
go to sleep. It's insane.
You can't
Right.
even go to the movie theater even if you're
No.
rich.
Don't see Zorro. I'll tell you that much.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but sure, there's probably a million gangs in the comics, whatever. I think that's fine. Like, okay, look, the two most powerful, I get it. He's trying to do rags to riches. I liked it. I think also since the Batman was a detective story, you're focused on a zoomed out perspective, and this is just getting right in the middle of the mess of the crime system in Gotham.
And of course, we know from the movie the Wayne family's connection to the Falcone family, where when Bruce was a kid, his father was a doctor, Thomas Wayne, and he had to patch Carmine Falcone up one time, and there's that whole thing with that. So it's like, and this is something else that the comics do a lot with the Court of Owls, which is not everyone's favorite sort of Batman plot, but the Court of Owls are like a secret Illuminati society that secretly runs, controls Gotham too, and that's all tied into, and the Waynes were connected to it. So like, really, it's just showing how Gotham, it's just so corrupt. One man can't even, can't, possibly stop all the crime and corruption that's happening.
Right, and all rumors online and the whispers are leading to potentially the Batman Part 2 doing a Court of Owls take. I'm sure they'll make some changes and adjust it, but where this show leaves off to, we can tell Penguin wants to be maybe in the local government or whatever. Like, there's going to be something going on with the higher ups in Gotham, right? So we'll see where it goes.
That's why I see. I don't see another season of the Penguin happening, but I think the Penguin could reappear in the next Batman movie.
The TV pipeline is so fucked right now that I wish interviewers would stop asking people like, "What's season 2?" Again, this was 2 years removed from a movie.
Yeah.
There's no
You don't need a season 2 because it accomplishes everything it needs to in this season. There's no reason to do another season of the Penguin, right?
Yeah, I would hate that. I like this a lot, and I don't want
You
season
could do
2
something
at all.
else. Yeah, you could do something else in that universe, but I don't think another season focusing on the Penguin, you would just be repeating things. Like, there's no point. We know everything we need to know about the Penguin now. We've seen his arc.
Yeah, we need how Catwoman got her groove back. Shit.
I don't even want that, and that's Zoe Kravitz, Mad Max rule, But yeah, I think this is just fine for what it is. I'm probably the highest on it. And again, I just think it's some of the clever writing. Like when I think about what happened to Vic's family, he was on a rooftop with his girlfriend hanging out, and then the Riddler's plot to blow up the seawall happens, and his family drowns in that.
Retroactively, this fucking little loser, this incel, complaining online about the rich people of Gotham, and then it's like, what did you do? You flooded the poorest part of the city and tormented all these people. It's this great one percenter story, Mike. You're right. It's
Well, the Riddler was insane, right? So he's kind of like, his plan doesn't make any sense because he's,
he's like, me and Batman are buddies. Yeah.
He thinks he's working with Batman the whole time, right?
Yeah, but the parallels in the writing, Vengeance. I was working with Vengeance. It's Vic was on a roof with his girlfriend, and they're looking out at the rich part of Gotham, and they're like, man, it looks great. And they're like, yeah, but if you were living over there, you'd look over here and see this shit town, right? And then at the end, the Penguin is staying in the shit part of town to look at the rich people's houses, because that's what he ultimately wants. So there's parallels in that, and also what happened to his brothers, what he did to his brothers, same thing that took out Vic's family, except he did it on purpose.
That's a question.
The water, the drowning Vic,
Yeah. But yeah, and I want to mention, so obviously we talked about The Sopranos, how it takes inspiration from that other show. I said The Wire deals a lot with the city. It's all about the city of Baltimore, right? Which is very similar to the city of Gotham. There's corruption everywhere in the police, in the government. And so I think that's, again, another show that this does take certain inspirations from. And I just want to shout it out. Like, if you haven't seen The Wire, if you like this show, check out those two shows, because I think that you will, if you have patience and stick with them, that you might like them.
There's not a Baltimore mob, right?
Well, it's all about warring gangs. It's a drug
Street
war.
gangs.
Who controls the heroin trade in Baltimore is the big thing, right? So you have Idris Elba, Stringer Bell, his famous character, versus various other gangs. So it's all about who's controlling, and then it shows the police side where they're just trying to stop the drug trade, right? And then it examines different seasons. It examines the school system, it examines the press. So it really gets in depth on how a city like that runs, a city very similar to this Gotham. And we see that even with the mayor, right? Bella Real, this new mayor that's promising,
there's a big election campaign in the movie, right?
Yeah, she's promising change. We're going to wipe out corruption and stuff. And then we see how insidious it is by the end, where the Penguin has made a deal with someone from city council. So, even if you have good intentions like this mayor, and there's a mayor character very similar to this in The Wire, who's like this progressive who wants to make all these changes, and he's played by the guy that plays Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. And you see how you see how easily you can get corrupted even if you have good intentions. So, yeah,
right. And that's almost like Sophia's getting corrupted. Because she has good intentions. She gets framed as the hangman, and then she actually does kill someone in Arkham because she just can't take it. And clearly the doctor's been paid off, like they're fucking with her.
Yeah. Well, and then she comes out of prison. She obviously takes over the family, but then eventually she's doing drug stuff. She realizes, she's just repeating the same pattern that her father did. And so then she's ready to just blow it all up. She's like, I'm going to leave Gotham, give it to someone else. I don't want to deal with it anymore. And that's kind of where she ultimately ends up. Of course, then she gets betrayed again by the Penguin. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, but I think she's giving the performance of her career in this. I think shout out to go toe to toe with Colin Farrell as Penguin and be a standout as well. That's not easy to do.
I've always liked this actress, Kristen Milioti. If you remember that episode of Black Mirror, the Star Trek episode with
the guy from Breaking Bad.
Yeah. Jesse Plemons, and she was great in that episode. She was in How I Met Your Mother. Well. She's the mother.
Yep, took us 8 seasons or whatever.
What I know her from. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Palm Springs with Andy Samberg, a Groundhog Day type movie. Yeah.
The Groundhog, my other favorite low-level Gotham villain.
Wow.
He buys up all the land. He's a land baron. He's the Groundhog.
Old chum, he keeps doing things day after day that are the same.
He's got OCD in the grounded universe. Yeah, he owns real estate because it's managing property.
He lives underground.
And he has OCD. Yeah.
Comes out, he sees a shadow, gets scared.
We get more Whitaker.
Which, by the way, the Penguin, I love. This is so funny. They do the cliched hero earns his iconic suit by the end of the show.
They do.
He just puts a tux on.
Yeah,
but he should have had an umbrella.
Right.
I think there was one leaning on his cabinet. I think there was an umbrella there. Yeah.
But the way they do that and the implications of and what he just did, obviously with Victor, which is what is the one scene that I was like, holy shit, I did like that because let's talk about Victor, obviously, because the way he's written in, I thought it was a little sort of ham-fisted at first, the way Penguin kind of just is like, oh, you're my sidekick now. But I kind of liken it to a video game where if this was the plot of a video game, the Penguin game, Victor would be your POV character, right? You kind of, the Penguin takes you under his wing, you start doing low-level crimes and stuff. And he develops this bond with Oz over the series. And that's really where the moments where you see Oz at like his most vulnerable, and you're like, well, maybe he does have like some goodness inside of him. And then that ending scene is just like a total, you know, what
Yeah.
the fuck moment, right?
It's one of the, most talked about things in recent television history. But, I think there's a midway point that like illustrates what you're saying. When Vic is going to leave to get on the bus, he's going to
Yeah.
leave
You have this
forever.
chance to leave. Right.
Yeah, and so there's a conversation with Oz, and he's like, "Look, I can't do this. I'm gonna leave." And you see Oz, he gets so upset, and he pulls out the gun. He's like, "Is this how it feels every day you're hanging out with me? Like I thought we were cool. You thought
Yeah.
I was holding you hostage. Like I thought we had a bond, bro. Like it breaks his heart almost. You think it does, but he's just self-serving. But like that moment, you're like, damn. Um,
Yeah.
is
And again,
Oz redeemable? Right. You think he really cares about
No.
Vic. So when they pull the rug, you're like, holy fuck. Yeah.
so yeah, let's talk about what happened. So obviously, the end of everything, Penguin has kind of won. All his enemies are dead or in jail, and he's made a new deal with City Council. He's going to be, he's made it, right? He's done it all. But then, of course, he finds out his mom, who we'll talk about the mom too. She has dementia and all this stuff. She had a stroke at the end, right? So she's in a coma, basically, in a catatonic state.
Right. Well,
So
I guess it's pertinent
yeah.
to say, like, eventually he gets captured by Sophia's guys. There's a whole back and forth, but what she ends up doing is, like, through psychology, getting into Oz's mom's mind. And that's where we learn kind
Yes.
of who Oz really is. And her thing to torture Oz is to force his mother to say, like, her darkest secret about what she really thinks about him. And that's, like, a really important
Right.
driving force, too, I guess, to the end game. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
But yeah, I just wanted to mention about the final scene with Victor, obviously, where Victor
oh, yeah,
is
sorry.
sort of pouring his heart out to Oz and saying like, "Oh, you're like family to me" and stuff. And Oz, and this is interesting because Oz, I think, it does to some degree care about Victor, and that's why he does what he does.
Mhm.
Why he does what he does, because he's like, family's only a weakness in this business, right? It'll
Yeah.
just drag you down. Like you can't have anyone that you care about because your enemies will use that as a weakness. So he kills him, right? He kills
He's
Victor.
Yeah.
punished for becoming a vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's and that he learns or maybe
He learns
decides
that
that
from
that's
his mom, right?
right because like, oh, she
Because
was
of
already leveraged against me, so I can't have
Yeah.
another person that can be leveraged, so I have to kill
exactly.
Vic. It's
Because
like,
if you remember, he's telling people his mom died a few years ago. That's what he tells Sophia.
Smart.
So Sophia doesn't even know about his mom. She only finds out later.
right.
So he was smart to do that. But then, yeah, he's like, yeah, family is a weakness. You can't have anyone close to you. Now, here's
Mhm.
again to mention The Sopranos. Now, you think that this is inspired by The Sopranos. Let me tell you, there's specific plot points in this that are very inspired by Sopranos, including Tony's mom tries to have him killed
Oh, wow.
in season one.
Nice.
That's from The Sopranos. Okay, spoiler alert for The Sopranos, a 20-year-old show. But
Yeah.
in the final season, one of the biggest moments of the show, he has a nephew, Christopher, who's sort of his Victor.
Mm-hmm.
He kills Christopher in the end of the show by strangling him.
Whoa.
So when I say there is certain inspirations
wow.
that are a little derivative for my taste. If you've seen The Sopranos, you know what I'm talking about, right? So
Right. It's like a one-to-one almost. Okay.
I also saw an
yeah.
interview that Kristen Milotti is on The Sopranos. I didn't realize that.
She might
Oh,
be,
really?
yeah. I can't remember. Yeah, I think she might have been.
Nice.
So desperate.
So
Right.
there are things like if you've seen The Sopranos, like, oh yeah, I remember that when it was in The Sopranos. So I'm not trying to take it away from the show. Like there are different circumstances in a way. Like it's not one-to-one exactly the same, but there's certainly inspirations there.
Well,
I'll sit
doesn't
and
it
agree.
also kind of feel like if James Gandolfini was still alive, he would be playing this role, not a super handsome Irishman under a pound of makeup?
Well,
A
yeah,
lot of
that leads to the
pounds.
question, like, why is it Colin Farrell? Because of course you could just get a guy who looks like the Penguin and get a good actor that's not like a super handsome guy. But I think and maybe this is something they did with the movie, but by casting Colin Farrell and then making him into this guy, it's almost to exaggerate how sort of ugly and sort of deformed that he looks, because the whole time you're thinking, wow, that's like that handsome guy Colin Farrell under all that
He
makeup.
That's very interesting, Jacob, because as a performance or as a character, he has the swagger of a guy who looks like he's a 10 out of a 10 when he's a guy who's,
Yeah,
the weirdest looking
He's
guy
got-
you've ever seen on the planet.
yeah. He exudes a lot of charisma, riz, as the kids
Confidence.
say.
He's
Yeah.
rizzed
Uh,
up.
confidence.
He's a Riz
rizzed
god.
up.
He's
the
got an Oz
Rizzler.
Riz. Yeah.
He's
Stalking
Um,
Gotham streets, just rizzing up everybody. Yeah.
You know, there was a meeting. Can we call him Oz Riz?
Yes.
No.
But
Riz
you're
wig.
totally right, Colin, because and it's almost like he has to make up for his disabilities, right? His foot, the way he walks, and he
It's
hates when
almost like
anyone
he
calls him
doesn't,
penguin.
because
Yeah.
he walks like a guy who in his mind is like, this is how everybody walks, with a crazy limp, and you're like, I guess so.
But I'm
He's
thinking about this
definitely
one
owning
scene
it.
with
Yeah.
Victor, where Victor is stuttering a lot and it's sort of getting worse, and someone's talking. I forget the exact situation.
The
but someone's
waiter
talking to him.
interrupts him, right?
Yeah, and he's like, no, let him finish. And he
The
gets
man
like
was
really
speaking.
mad. Oz does, right? He's like, you don't let them, interrupt you. Like, you let them wait for you. Like, you'll say it when you're ready to say it. kind of
Fuck
thing.
yeah.
Take up space. Let him wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
Don't apologize, for who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and
Steak
again,
free.
that's something that he bonded with Victor over.
Right. And even like the when they're selling the drugs at the club and he's like, you did it, kid. I'm proud of you. You did great today, Vic. You did a good job. It's like
Well,
he is
it's
proud
like
of
Victor
him.
gives him that whole
It
speech
came
of
back,
like,
Victor. That's what's
you're
important.
the one who turned the power on. You're the real boss of the city. And you see on his face like, yeah, that's right.
I did do that. Well, I guess that's
It makes
true
it more
too.
surprising.
Well, because that's his whole speech to the guy in the beginning. He's like, "There's this gangster Rex, whatever. Everybody loved the guy. They threw a parade for him." So when he's seeing Vic like tell him, "You are him now. Like you're a local hero. You've done it." You
And
know.
Vic is doing the opposite of what Alberto Falcone did in the first scene, where he's, Oz is telling him his dream and everything, and Alberto laughs at him. He said, "You think you're gonna be like that? Like you're a nobody." And that's when he shoots him because
Crazy. What's that? A sandwich?
Yeah.
Don't say that, Dave. Can we shout out real quick? Renzi Feliz
Yeah.
is Vic Aguilar, great little actor. I've seen him in Marvel's The Runaways. That was a little show. That's the only thing I know this kid from.
It's the first thing I've seen him in. I liked him. I thought, he's a little too nice to be involved in this crime stuff. He should have just got on that bus with his girlfriend.
I know.
But again, he had his choice, and that's another very Sopranos thing where it's like you had your chance, like with Christopher's girlfriend. What's her name? You guys don't know, but
Nope.
Drea DiMatteo in the show.
Mhm.
She eventually gets whacked because she was wearing a wire,
Why
but
didn't we
she
hear
had her
that
chance
word
to
in this
leave.
show? But you have a
they're not
chance.
saying people are getting whacked enough, and that's kind of a reoccurring thing. Like you're connected to this crime. Same thing with Tony's wife, right? Carmela, Edie Falco, great actress. She knows that what she's involved with. Like she knows how her family has money. She could leave. She could divorce Tony at any time. Deep down, she knows that, but she sort of lies to herself and says, "No, it's not. I'm not involved in that kind of thing." So people connected to this crime world, they always have a chance to leave, and we turn it down. That's the sort of deal with the devil that you're making,
Well,
where you're saying, "No, I am. This is my life." Yeah.
There's always a crossroads. It's just very often you can't see it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, Vic, he lost everything.
Yeah.
So he really has turned to crime as he is just a nice kid. You see that in his flashbacks. Like he has no business being here, but he finds this sort of pseudo father figure in Oz Cobb teaching him how to survive in a rough world,
Right. Well,
He's
the thing we
technically
see.
homeless.
Yeah, he's homeless. He lost his whole family, and we first see him. He's trying to steal the rims from Oz's car, right?
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, he's just some kind of like street thug or whatever. Then you see a couple episodes later his backstory, and it's like, well, he really lost everything. Like his whole family was drowned in the flood, so he really had nowhere to turn. Like you said, he's homeless, so he's doing crime just to make ends meet, basically.
Right. And even like this,
and he sees a way to get more, have more of success and have a family, a pseudo family with Oz.
And to go back to the film, we see that kid in the skull makeup basically crying as he's part of this gang that knows they're going to get their ass kicked by vengeance, where it's like,
Yeah.
it just seems like so many young people in Gotham are in such a rock and a hard place.
Right.
Yeah,
And again,
yeah.
to bring the Wire back into it, like that's sort of what the Wire's all about. These kids are raised in an environment where there's really no way out. They have to turn to crime. And you have like the Michael B. Jordan character.
I was about that. That
Mhm.
is who plays it, right? I did know. Yeah. Wow.
And eventually he gets killed by his own friends because basically the boss tells him he has to go. And so they have to turn on their best friend who they grew up with. And it's this perpetual cycle that they can't break out of because of, economic situation in the city and everything. They have no other avenue available to them to like lead a good life. So
Right.
Yeah.
And like that's a huge focus of Crown Point. We have the Squid or whatever. Squid is kind of like the low level thug in charge
Yeah.
of Crown
Squid.
Point. That becomes a
Let me
whole
tell you, the
thing.
Squid, I believe, is named after a comic character,
Great.
the Squid, as well as Magpie in the prison is
That's
a
right.
comic character as well. So there's some subtle references to some Batman
Yeah,
characters.
and you guys had a theory that maybe Dr. Rush is sort of the Scarecrow equivalent.
Yes, well,
That's
there's
what the internet's saying.
a
It's a
screenshot if you
glove.
see on this desk in the background. There's a glove and a mask that are very Scarecrow looking, and of course
Mhm.
he's a psychiatrist who's using this sort of hypnotization technique with the light thing.
Yep.
Seems very Scarecrow-ish. So
Yeah, he's employing those techniques on Oz's mom and on Sophia, right? So yeah, it seems sort of Scarecrow-ish if they want to lean into it. Shout out to the Sons of Anarchy, where I first saw him, another kind of crime gang show.
Oh, sure.
I was going to say
Yeah.
another Marvel. He plays the character, of course, Shades in Luke Cage. So a
Oh,
lot of these
okay.
people have dabbled
Was
in
he
the
in
comic
Punisher too
universe.
with John Bernthal?
I think there's a good chance. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Scarecrow is an interesting character. I don't know if they could bring him back for the movies or something. I really liked Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow in Batman Begins. So
Well,
I
this
don't
is
know if
not a
I'd touch
universe.
Scarecrow again.
I don't think, but in this world, I don't think you could see a character say, "And now my fear gas."
Right. Well,
Well,
we
it
have
could be a
Bliss.
toxin, like some kind of toxin that
Yeah.
makes they could explain it in a grounded scientific way. I think
It's
that's what
so
they did with the
interesting
Nolan
that
movie.
Christopher Nolan's take was, "What if Batman was grounded?" and Matt Reeves' take is, "But what if he was more grounded?"
Not
Yeah.
grounded enough.
I was gonna say that is kind of the problem with, and I like the Matt Reeves universe, but like, yeah, Nolan did already do the grounded Batman.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to return to like Batman and Robin, Schumacher Batman,
Yeah, super
right.
gay.
Right.
super
There we go.
gay, nipples on the bat suit.
Give us the
Yeah.
nipples. See,
We
in
want
another
the
world, Vic could have been Dick Grayson and working with Pattinson. Like
Well,
he
there's
needed
a lot of
mentor.
people who have pointed out that he's very close to Jason Todd's origin story, which is, of course, a young boy trying to steal the rims off the Batmobile, and then you
Oh.
have Vic stealing the rims off of the car. But I love
Right.
the reason that the Penguin likes him is he doesn't run away. He's the only guy who's like, ugh, instead of just being like, yo, hit the bricks, it's the Penguin.
Right.
I wish they said that.
I guess he does need help with the body too. So there's a little bit of, but it's like at any time he's like, okay, I'm just gonna get murdered after this. So
Yeah.
Let's talk about Colin for a minute. Are you guys Colin fans? Because obviously,
I'm a huge Colin fan.
point out, I love
Colin Brooks.
mine. Yes, thank you.
Hey, of course we're fans.
He has, of course, dabbled in a prosthetic villain role in a comic book film before. He was Bullseye.
Who I was
Jacob's
expecting to
drawing
see
it right
in
now.
Deadpool.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yes, here's the
Yeah.
thing. Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
I think we probably talked about him at least once or twice on the podcast before.
I think,
but
yeah.
I think he's super underrated. He's a great actor, I think. One of the best actors of like his age group, I think, if you're talking about like movie stars and things like that.
Yes.
He's also very handsome and very good looking. So he kind of got pigeonholed into certain roles that he couldn't always show off his range. And I think as he's gotten older, he's taken on different projects, weirder, more offshoot kind of projects rather than mainstream stuff. And he's really been able to show his range with something like Banshees of Inisherin.
Oh, we love
Yeah.
that movie.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. With
And
Barry
in
Keoghan, we
Bruges,
got the
both of
Joker and the Penguin. In Bruges is one of my favorites of
Yeah.
his.
in
Did I
Bruges,
ever
same,
tell the
same
story
director.
about how he almost killed me one time?
No.
Colin Farrell?
Yes. So I was
There's only
working.
one
I was
Colin.
stealing rims.
So there I was, robbing his car.
Right outside of the
Um,
Iceberg Club, yeah.
The
I was
Iceberg Lounge,
working
yeah.
on the Apple TV show Mythic Quest, the It's Always Sunny
I've seen that. Yes, great
thing.
show.
And I was
Rob
dropping off a
McElhenney.
bunch of props, as my job was, to Warner Brothers Studio. And I was at the bungalows there, which is where most of the art team hangs out. And they asked me to transport some other items to a different soundstage. If you've ever been on a Hollywood lot, they're made up of these increasingly smaller and smaller little side streets that you have to zip around to. So I decided, since I had parking and you get these drive-ons, to just walk the stuff over because it's truly impossible to navigate there. And as I turned a corner, I was basically almost run over by an Audi, an Audi,
By a purple car.
Yeah, plum.
a purple Lamborghini. No, but a very fancy, rich car, and the guy behind the wheel slammed on the brakes, truly waved at me, window down, and said, "Sorry, mate," and took off. And it was Colin
mate.
Farrell.
Wow.
That's an amazing story.
And I've
love
always, here's the thing. This is so dumb to say. I've always looked at other Collins as a young man and been like,
Sure.
do I like that these people are also named Colin? Forever it was Colin Firth, and I was like, I don't like Colin Firth. And then after Bullseye, the first thing I ever saw him in was Colin Farrell did a guest episode of Scrubs. I don't know if you guys remember that one or not, as a handsome Irishman. Back in the age when big movie stars would do guest spots on
Right.
TV. Again, TV production's so fucked up now they can barely, handle the characters they have. They don't really have guest stars on TV anymore. But I really fell in love with the guy because of that. So
I do the same thing with Jakes and Jacobs.
of
I think,
course.
do I like this guy? Jake
Mike.
Paul.
Interesting. I don't know if I do
You
that with
do.
Mike's. Well, yeah.
Well, Jake
Mike
Paul and
Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Yeah, you guys had a real
Oh
big
my
weekend
gosh.
this
Yeah, we
week.
had a real big spike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jake Paul's not the best ambassador of Jakes, but I do
Yeah.
always, I feel like an affinity with other
Yes.
Jacobs. And it's funny because it wasn't a popular name when I was younger, but became one of the most popular boys' names for a while. So now
Sure.
there's a lot of Jakes that are like 10 years younger than me that I
Well, for me specifically, it's the one L. To see someone who's a Colin, not a double L, I'm always like, oh, I guess, interesting. I need to observe you.
And of
I
course, you're a
see.
huge Colin Powell fan.
Yeah, well, I hate that he pronounces it that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
The fool. The 2000s were so hard for me, as every substitute teacher would say,
Colin?
and I'd say, no.
Not
But yeah,
present.
Colin Farrell, just a nice Irish
He's
lad.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is a great actor, and specifically like in this role, I think he's incredible because when you look at him, I don't see Colin Farrell like at all. I see a totally different guy. I
No.
don't hear his voice. Like he obviously has a Irish accent naturally. So he's
Great to
doing
point
this
out.
like Jersey Gotham accent. And I
But
just don't see
here's-
Colin Farrell at all. It's amazing.
But
see
you
the
say
penguin.
that. I
Yeah.
see the penguin. You say that, Jacob. Yes, he physically disappears. And yes, of course, he's just an amazing actor. So he just disappears across the board. But the things that he brings to the table as an ex-addict, he was addicted to drugs. He was had a huge alcohol problem.
He was a bad
fucking
boy in the 2000s.
Dated Britney
Right.
Spears, released
Yeah.
that sex tape where has the bullseye head cut. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, where has a completely shaved head and he says to a woman, "I want to eat you like breakfast, lunch, and dinner." It's incredible.
Whoa.
Sure.
But he also has a special needs son. You know what I mean? Like, so the loving tenderness with Victor. Like, there is so much Colin in this scumbag role of a guy who did get lucky enough to reach the 1% or the higher echelon, right? That I almost have to wonder if that's what he was attracted to for this material, which again is so different, in my opinion, to the movie he signed up for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we deal with
wonder.
some of that stuff like people are addicted to drops or whatever. They have the drug stuff going on. Yeah, he brings some authenticity.
Drops. A name
Is
of
he the good
bliss.
timeline Johnny Depp?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because in the 2000s he was sort of a Johnny Depp-esque.
Yes.
You get the Johnny Depp kind of roles, and they've definitely taken a career divergence in the last
Life
few years.
divergence.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, I
Had
just
to
think
say
Colin
it.
Farrell has always been a great actor that like wasn't always in the best roles, and now that he's allowed to sort of break out and do different things and show his range, like people are starting to understand that he is like one of the best actors of his generation.
You guys still have not
Mhm.
looked up that Apple TV series I told you to Google the twist of, right?
Which one?
Sugar.
Oh no.
Oh
I have
no.
not.
Okay. And listeners, again, I will urge you to Google the twist of Sugar if you don't know
do
what
that
it is.
after this episode. But I think of like Colin Farrell. I think of him in True Detective season 2,
Mm-hmm.
which is not a great show maybe, but I thought he was a good actor in it. Like he was doing something different. Um, he What else? I mean, he was in Miami Vice doing a sort of
Mm-hmm.
crime role.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's been in a lot of stuff that I like. Yeah.
Saw that, a very quiet, sad, magical
Which one?
drama.
What is it?
Undine.
Oh
Undine.
no,
How do you pronounce that?
Hmm.
It's Irish again.
I haven't seen that, but
No.
The Killing of a Sacred Deer. He's in that Yorgos
He
Lanthimos.
kind of hooked up with Lathamos. The Lobster,
Yeah,
of course, my
The
father's
Lobster.
least
That's right.
favorite
Yeah,
film of all time.
yeah.
Right.
He was just in a movie called After Yang, which I haven't seen,
Yeah.
but it's like a more sort of quiet, independent movie that he got
Robots.
critical acclaim for. Yeah.
That's right. No, I think
So
he's
yeah,
very underrated.
yeah, and I've also seen him in interviews and stuff. And like, honestly, you can of course never really know with like celebrities what they're really like and stuff. But he just always seems like such a nice, personable guy, like the kind of guy that would just like talk to some random person and like and want to know more about their life and stuff. And doesn't seem like a sort of standoffish celebrity in that way to me. But that could
No,
all
he
just be
seemed
PR. But
very upset that he would have killed me. He seemed very genuine about that.
yeah,
That's good.
I mean, a lot of celebrities in LA would just like curse you out or something, right, and drive off. And he was
Yeah.
nice enough to say sorry. So yeah,
So we know at the very least he's willing not to run you over,
Yeah.
which is a step up for a lot of people, maybe.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, so I
Yeah.
think he's, when the Batman came out, everyone was like, "Holy crap, you can't even recognize him in this role. It's insane, right?"
Right.
So then this show just gives him more shine, and hopefully people will check out his other movies.
And of
All
course,
these
some of it is the
conversations.
effects,
Mhm.
but also some of it is his acting too.
But he would come out and he would say things like, I could go to Starbucks, the first thing I did after the first transformation, and nobody recognized. I feel the most free I've ever felt as an actor. And then
Sure.
now, of course, the conversations have shifted to him basically saying, I fucking really hated this, signing up for a show where you 5 days a
Well,
week are putting
yeah,
this stuff
the
on.
application
It's
where
so
it takes 3
uncomfortable.
hours, you got to wake up at like 5 in the morning, sit in a chair for 3 hours while they put stuff on your face. Of course, anyone would get tired of that.
And then work for 12. We brought this up before.
Yeah.
The
The industry
working
doesn't
hours.
count
No,
makeup.
it's so miserable.
Yeah, it's a rough schedule for something like that for sure. But that he was able to do it and commit to this role so well, I think that speaks, a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, again, it's like we don't need season 2. If he shows up a little bit in the Batman 2, great. But yeah, let him rest.
Please.
Yeah.
Let him
But-
rest. I think he could be in the Batman movie. I just don't think we need a new season for sure.
No.
Don't you want to say to Oz Cobb by that last episode, comb your hair forward. You look so much better than this thin little thing you're trying to
Well-
do with the baldness in the back. Just do it forward.
Speaking from experience, he might be trying
Oh, I
to
get
cover
it,
up the back a little bit. So,
Trust me, I get it.
Yeah.
Right. I just
But
want
yeah, I
to
mean, he's-
highlight
Yeah.
the effects. Just we were talking about how that's kind of a
Yeah.
dying art. So shout out to the special effects makeup team and doing the bodysuit and the whole thing. Like at least, hey, we have some craft here. Credit where credit's due.
Absolutely. And there's a lot that goes into it. Like you might not even know how much prosthetics are on his face, but if you look at the behind the scenes video and stuff, like it's ears, it's nose, it's like chin, it's like everything. So
We were critical, I think, in the Hobbits episode. I went on a rant about how, maybe more recent than this, but I went on a rant about how makeup effects have moved from fantastical to basically just making handsome actors fat. Like that was the whole
The
Darkest
Whale.
Hour. The Whale, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
And this, I'm actually going to walk it back a little because this is not that. And maybe it's because it's an original character. Obviously, I know the Whale is not based. I don't think based on
Right.
a real guy or
You
whatever.
don't know the real whale?
Well, the Batman villain, the Whale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something where I watch it and I truly am so stunned at the transformation, and I do think to myself aloud, like, if we had just let this happen, if the Hulk could be this opposed to, $50 million of CGI, what a different world it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I would love that. Like, what's the updated technology of the bodysuit Hulk? What could we do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
part of it is just the cost and things like that, where it's like
Yeah.
studios are like, well, we could, use practical effects and stuff, but that'll take a lot longer and cost more, and then we could just do it in post with effects, and it'd be.
But think about
Yeah.
think about the original The Avengers post-credit scene, Thanos versus the Josh Brolin one, where that first one is just makeup, and then the second one, of course, is the most revolutionary. It's Josh Brolin's face, but he's an alien, and you're like, right? No, I know.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess case by case, but yeah, great job for this one.
Yeah.
It is.
By the way, I saw, so if you ever see those Wired interviews where they do like the what are people Googling about people, there was one with Colin Farrell and Danny DeVito. I think it was for the movie
nice.
Dumbo, because they were both in Dumbo, Tim Burton's Dumbo.
Tim Burton,
Right.
We can't escape.
So they were doing the Wired autocomplete interview together, and they just seemed like, two really nice guys hanging out. And I was like,
I know you guys haven't seen it.
Right there.
He's incredible in Dumbo. He plays
Yeah.
the saddest character that has ever existed. You're like, why is this in a Dumbo movie?
Wow.
Sure.
Dang, maybe that's the Colin Farrell watch along. I got to go watch Dumbo now.
Yeah, but it would have been great if Danny DeVito had a cameo in this show somehow. I don't know what character he would have played, but I just would have.
Well, that's an interesting question, because could he have been his father? And then I want to open up this discussion.
Oh, yeah.
For all the family stuff that we get, and for the mother being such a big character, let's talk about her a little bit. The Lewy body dementia, Jacob mentioned all this stuff. But when we get the flashback, and we see the brothers and all this stuff, and there is no father. And he has this relationship, this admiration with Rex Calabrese. Is the implication that Rex is Oz's father? Maybe?
I don't know if he's his father. Just I think he was just a local gangster that his mom was maybe seeing,
Running the numbers for, working in some kind of way.
but not his actual father. The other interesting thing, though, is
I kind of think, can I make an argument? I think it might be his father, because it has different colored hair than his brothers and stuff too.
Well,
so
that's
my
what I was
thought
thinking.
is maybe it's possible.
It's interesting when you see his brothers, Jack and Benny. They do look like more normal kids, and then you see young Oz. And, I want to shout out this kid's actor. I didn't look up his name, but this kid actor that plays young Oz, I thought he was great, because he looks so much like they nailed the casting. Like, he looks so much like a young version of Oz.
A kid who looks like a character you invented. It's like
it's amazing.
We found the young version of someone who doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Ryder Allen is this kid's name. Shout out to Ryder Allen.
They nailed this casting. Like, his facial expressions somehow, like, I was just like, that's young Oz. So,
even how he walks, his voice.
It's an incredible. When he puts his hand on his mom at the club and goes like, "And Ma, let's dance," and he's just like saying all this stuff. You're just like, you fully believe. You're like, yeah, that's little Penguin.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I love that. And as you said, we got to mention it. He does look like former host of the show, Joe, and Cassie. He looks like he could be the child of our friends Joe and Cassie.
We will soon meet this kid.
Yes. Can't wait.
Just a little Goomba running around Gotham.
Why is everyone in Gotham so Italian? It's
aggressively
crazy.
Italian.
Yeah. No, I'm not a Maroni. I'm a gigante.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
canon-wise,
absolutely.
there's always been a question of, is Gotham in New York State or is it in New Jersey? And I think in Matt Reeves' universe, it is in Jersey, and it's like across the bridge from New York City,
Yeah.
which also exists.
Okay.
So who knows? But I think in the Nolan movies, it was Chicago basically. But
Well,
for
and
some
the
reason, it's
fucking
Jersey.
Joker. I mean, that is New York, right? The Joker
Yeah, the
movie.
Joker
Yeah.
with Joaquin
Mhm.
Phoenix, that seems to be New York. So it's generally either seen as like a New York stand-in or like a Jersey. Um, so yeah, it's kind of interesting. In the comics, a lot it's Metropolis is New York City, and Gotham is like the across the bridge in
Jersey.
Jersey. Yeah,
That makes sense. A lot more crime down there.
yeah,
But
uh,
yeah, the reveal we get like with him and his brother, it's like because even when they're doing the zombie thing, and he just has this look of like, man, taking the fucking attention away from me, you know, like he's
yeah,
so like needy, and I think Sophia at one point says, you just wanted more, and then his mom has this like he just wants more, like, and he can't
yeah.
share, right? That's
His
kind of his
mom even says
Yeah.
problem.
like, "I had enough to give all of you boys. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I had enough at the end." Of course, this flashback. So I was wondering about this because it seemed a little more open ended to me, but maybe the ending kind of confirms that he did do it on purpose. But he's playing hide and seek with his brothers in these tunnels. We find
Flashlight
out that
thing.
he used to go around the tunnels, which leads into they can do their drug business in the tunnels, right? In
Right,
modern
right.
day. Um, but he gets mad because he's like, I can't go down this ladder or whatever, and he locks him in this room, like in the sewer tunnels. There's a big rainstorm. He goes home, and eventually they drown. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now I thought when this episode happened, I really thought that it was an accident, and
I
that he didn't realize they were going to die necessarily. He just took it too far.
I think, yeah, and Colin, I want to know what you think about this too. Like I don't think he realized for sure that they were gonna die. You know, I just think he was
Yeah,
closing
but
the
he maybe
door.
did
I
it
don't.
subconsciously
Well, he
because he
was
wanted
pissed
them
off
to
at
be
him.
out
You
of
know,
it.
it's hard for me to get
Yeah.
down there. You know, he's all
Right.
mad, but he didn't
I
think the
think, yeah,
Yeah,
flood
so I
was
think
gonna
he did
murder
that.
them.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
was
think.
pissed off, and then he realized he took it too far later. But then he never went back. He never told his mom or anything, and then eventually they drowned. So the question is, like, did he subconsciously somehow know that they're going to die and just didn't and just wanted them out of the picture,
well,
basically?
he's certainly a
Mhm.
sociopath, but I think it
Yeah.
really leads back into the first scene of the show, which is the
True.
itch trigger, to kill
Right.
Alberto, and then why did I do that? I mean, he just has these. A child doesn't know what repercussions are; they just act out in the moment, and he's never
Yeah.
advanced beyond that.
Mm-hmm. He's feeling like
Yeah.
they're making fun of him or slighting him because they know his leg and they went down a ladder, so he just gets petty. Like, first episode, just like you said, Colin. It's like, oh, you've made fun of me. Fuck off, right?
Right. So
He's
to
the
me, that means
greediest
he
character we've ever covered. I mean, like you guys said, he just wants more and more. It is
yeah.
incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And he really, yeah, he's not afraid to step over anyone to get what he wants. Of course, we find out with Sophia's backstory that he is the one that basically ratted her out to her dad and got her thrown in prison and stuff. So he sort of
For 10
was
years,
behind
for
that.
what? A
Yeah.
promotion? When she
Yeah.
says that to him, it's like, yeah, what? Why did you do that?
Did you get
Right.
everything
Because
you
he was her
wanted?
driver. And then because of that, he became the manager of the Iceberg Lounge, which is a step up for him, I guess. But yeah, he's still like a
Always
local
said you were one of his best
goon.
soldiers. A dirty
Yeah.
soldier. You took just enough.
Yeah.
Right. No, and then
Um,
she asked him,
yeah.
yeah, did you get everything you wanted? And he's like, yeah, I fucking did, actually. I'm not poor.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but yeah, I'll be honest. I got what I
Right.
fucking wanted. Sorry, doll.
Yeah. And that's what we kind of see is that he can be friendly in person and stuff, but then he's always scheming, in his mind, like, how can I kind of screw this person over to get ahead, basically. And he'll make an alliance and then break it like it's nothing, just to get ahead. So
He can
He
talk
says
his
to
way out of
Alberto's
anything.
yeah.
Yeah, he says to Alberto to his face in the first scene when Alberto brings up the ring of Sal Maroni, which I would love to talk about those
Mm-hmm.
characters in just a second. But when he says, "You want to wear it, Oz?" Oz goes, "No, no, no, no. No, that's yours. You're the boss now, boss." And then later, of course, wears the ring. I mean, it's this entire thing that he's almost wearing it to flaunt both sides of the mob. I mean, it's
Right.
is well, his hubris knows no bounds, but also his appetite. I mean, it is just a bottomless fucking appetite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then
And that's
later
what-
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that's like what's fascinating, and I want to touch on this appetite and this. He has this almost weird confidence, like it's all deserved to me. I'm gonna get it right. This
Yeah.
is a maybe fun fact, maybe a weird fact, but they made for the bodysuit. It had a penguin penis, not like a penguin's, but like they made a dick for it,
Wow.
even though you don't see it.
Wow.
So it's like he's got
Yeah.
this big dick energy for no reason. It's like I'm
I
the
can see
penguin. I'm
Colin
gonna run this
Farrell being
town.
like, yeah, make a dick for me.
Right. But like the point is, even though he's got his limp and stuff, he walks around like he owns the fucking place. He's got big dick energy,
Right.
right? Because he's
Does.
like,
I think that
I'm gonna
comes
do
from
it.
yeah, and because he kind of comes from nowhere, he's a nobody, and these Falcones and these Maronis, they think they own this city. Well, we're gonna take this city back,
They
and
don't
that's
even
why
know
he's
your
kind of
fucking name.
uniting. Yeah, he's doing the
Yeah.
whole. He's essentially doing like a Bernie Sanders speech to these other gangs.
Yeah.
Like, these rich elites out here, they don't give a fuck
They
about
don't
you.
care.
Yeah, but then
Everybody
he
gets a
will
cut.
immediately betray these gangs, like if it's to his advantage, which is the funny thing. So it's all really just for show.
And yeah, that's the momentum too. Is like you never know where his loyalties lie, and you keep thinking maybe he's honest this time, maybe he's honest this time, and every single
Yeah.
time he just double crosses everybody little by
But
little.
it's-
They hit it, hammer it home.
The glee in the double crosses too. I mean, to say to Sophia, "I did kill your brother," and to throw that in her face, or to say to Sal, like, "I
Yeah.
killed your whole family," and to watch
I
him
lit 'em
die
on
from a
fire,
heart
yeah.
attack. I mean, it's like,
And
That scene. Okay,
Oh.
I want to talk about Sal Maroney, and I want
yes,
to talk
Clancy
about
Brown, my
Clancy
favorite
Brown.
actor of all time.
You love
truly.
Clancy
I
Brown.
love Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
I always love him. He's good in everything. Basically, he's been in
Never
a lot
bad.
of stuff. Mr. Krabs' voice, obviously.
Lex Luthor, if we're going to talk
Lex
comic
Luthor,
books, the
yeah.
biggest thing he's probably ever done. Yeah.
Right. Just a character actor that shows up a lot, and I'm always happy to see him. I thought his casting as Sal Maroni was interesting because he's not like a traditionally Italian looking guy. I don't think he's Italian at all. He's just a kind of a Midwest white guy, but he's playing, Sal Maroni. He's an Italian guy, but
to tie him to the Armenian mafia is
Yes.
a very fascinating choice.
well, through his is it Armenian or Iranian? Because his
Well,
wife,
Agda Gashalu, and I'm not saying that name
Dora
correctly.
Agdashlu,
Thank
who
you.
is an actress that I like a lot because she was
Yeah.
in my favorite show, The Expanse, of course.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, she's been in a bunch of stuff. She's an Iranian actress,
Yes.
and she's been in a ton of stuff just as a minor character and stuff. I thought it was funny too. I watched that movie Renfield. She played a mob boss lady
Oh,
in
nice.
Renfield.
That's
It's like
right.
the same exact character. Ben Schwartz.
She's, of course, the woman in X-Men 2, X-Men United who says, "He is the cure." She's like a
Yeah.
scientist, and she's got that, incredible voice.
I love her. I love her voice.
Hello, how are you?
Iconic. Yeah. So when she showed up, I was very happy in this show. But then, to fucking light her and her son on fire and just watch them burn to death, I was like, damn, okay,
Yeah.
Oz, calm down.
Yeah, that scene was crazy. But yeah, even when Maroney, Clancy Brown just has a heart attack, like the like he's taking credit for like a freak accident.
Yeah.
Like he
I love
seems
that
so
scene.
happy.
Yeah.
Like he's like,
Yeah.
I did it. I
Because
beat
he's
you,
like-
you stupid fuck.
He's
Yeah.
literally about to die. Like Oz, does not have the upper hand in that fight.
No.
And then Sal just gets a heart attack, and then he can't let it go that he just died. He's like, I beat you. Like, you thought you could go against me. I fucking beat you. As
Yeah.
if you didn't really beat him. He just
He
had a
didn't.
heart attack and died.
Yeah.
Again, this pettiness, there was no balance, and he just, whew,
Yeah.
what a character study.
And it's like he's willing to, he's at first he's working with Sal. against the Falcons. He double crosses Sal. Then he's working with Sophia. Double crosses her. Then they team up. He's trying to get them to like turn on each other. It's just like he will never stop like scheming.
And that is the survivor in him, but there is the genuineness that in those first 2 episodes when he's like, fuck it. You know, these people don't respect me anymore and their dad's dead. I'll just go work for the other mob. It's not like at that moment he's like, and then I'll double cross them and this will lead to a truth. It's not, he's not
He's just kind of
2,
making it
3
up as he
steps
goes.
ahead. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
basically like half a step ahead of everybody.
Yeah, it's all happening in real time. It's almost like he's Domino. Like he just has.
Yes.
He's very lucky. And
He
like,
is.
yeah, it's like the,
Well, even
the
like
momentum
when,
itself just gets out of hand.
Yeah, like Maroney's wife shows up when he's with Sophia, steals like their bliss mushrooms and stuff, right? And he's immediately like, "No, I'm working with you. I was gonna tell you all about it. Like I was gonna, give you Sophia."
Oh, you're
theirs." He
blowing
immediately
it.
turns-
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then Vic,
Yeah.
when he saves him, and then Vic's like, he picks, he runs him over, gets
Yeah.
Cobb, and then Vic's like, "What about Sophia?"
about
He's like, "Just
Sophia?
leave her. Just get out of here."
When
Yeah.
there is the bug essentially inside the mob, the Falcones, and he makes
Oh,
that
right.
quick move to basically pin
Johnny
the
V.
death. Yeah, to the Vito or Johnny V or whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, even that, it's just his ability to improvise. This guy should take UCB classes. I mean, he's fucking great on his feet, his foot.
Yeah, he's great on his foot. He puts his best foot forward, I think.
He puts his club foot forward.
Yeah.
No, it's
Right.
crazy. It's like, and it's due to his sociopathic tendencies too. It's like
Yes,
he
and
can
that's
think
what
of
it
the
is.
solution and follow through on it because he just doesn't fucking care who, like Jacob said, he has to step on.
Doesn't
I'm
matter.
getting out of this.
And that's why you can
Yeah.
never trust him.
Step
You
on
know,
with that gross foot.
Vic's mistake.
Yep.
And I want to talk about Carmine Falcone really quickly too. So
Yeah.
obviously John Turturro in the movie
Mhm.
didn't come back for the show. Instead, we have Mark Strong playing him in the flashback. I guess
Oh,
I
that's
guess it was
right.
just scheduling issues with John Turturro.
John
But
Turturro, who's obviously shooting season 2 of Succession, which of course aired 4 years ago or whatever.
Succession?
Horrible fact. Or what's it called? Not Succession.
I don't know.
What the fuck's
I
that
don't think
Apple
he was in
TV show
Succession.
called?
The
know.
Severance.
Night of or
I'm sorry,
whatever.
no,
Oh,
Severance.
Severance?
Oh,
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. With Ben
So,
Stiller.
but put out this little statement about like, well, I don't respect the character anymore because I don't want to participate in
Yeah, the
violence
violence against women.
Yeah.
It's like you were in the like you know the character that you played in the movie, right?
You strangle Catwoman in that first film and say,
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you like I strangled your mother.
Right.
Right. That's the whole point of your character. But
Yeah.
um
But pays off in a huge, I mean, I found that to be incredibly well written, that it's like, we're developing this character too and kind of tying it in and really building stuff out. I was very impressed by that. I was not impressed by Mark Strong's performance as the fill-in character.
No, and we were saying off pod about this new Dune TV show that's on HBO now. Like they must just have Mark Strong on retainer at HBO or something because he's in that too. But he's just only in it like for like a scene or two in this show.
Yeah.
So just in
What's it
flashbacks,
worth?
but
Then why even recast it? Then don't even put him in
just
it.
make
I
him look
guess.
like John Turturro. But yeah, as we find out, it wasn't Sophia that's the hangman, which is the serial killer that strangles women, but it was really Carmine. And he also killed her mom and made it look like a suicide. So that's his thing. He just strangles women.
Can you imagine running the mob and also being a serial killer? When would you have the time?
Yeah. Well, you
just
just
really
really
likes killing.
relaxes. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically,
man.
it seems like.
Boss, we killed like 20 people today. You had to go out for an hour and kill someone else too? He's like, yeah, I did.
Right.
You know me, the old hangman.
But of course, this means that, of course, Selena Kyle and Sophia are half sisters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the final scene
He
for
was
her
making
is
some
that
pretty
she...
good-looking daughters.
Well, yes, he was. God bless those genes. But we get the reach out that Selena sends Sophia a letter.
Right.
Is the last scene for her as she's reinstated in Arkham. Did we say her final part?
Yeah. So essentially, she there's a bunch of double crosses right throughout the season.
Oh,
It looks like it looks like she's finally got the upper hand on the Penguin. She's got him cornered. She's convinced the Triad to work with her. Zhao, which is another actor that was in The Expanse, by the way.
Yep.
weird.
Yeah. So this, I love this too, because Victor actually convinced this underling guy that worked in the Triad, right, to double cross the Triad boss. So essentially, yeah, they look like they're gonna give Penguin over to Sophia. All of a sudden, they shoot everybody except Sophia. Then he takes Sophia in a car. You think that he's going to kill her in the woods, right? Tells her to turn around and then leaves, and then the police are there. So basically, he's framing her for all this stuff.
The entire
that's
gang war. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way he did it is really smart too, because he pinned the Bliss lab on Sal, and he's like, yeah, it's all this drug war between the Gigantes and the Maronis, because she's like calling herself the Gigante family now instead
That's
of the
right.
Falcone family. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I had nothing to do with it. That's what he says to the councilman. He's like, I'll serve it up on a plate. You're going to solve the case. You're going to get Sophia. You've stopped the gang war. And then that you'll advocate for me to do something.
And Batman's just like, good, it worked itself out.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, he got everything that he wanted, except he goes to tell his mom. He's so excited, like, Ma, I made it. And then that's when he finds out that his mom is, had a stroke. So
yeah, and she had asked him, if I ever end up in a coma state, pull the plug, which he does not do.
Yeah.
And the other evil thing he does is, instead of killing Sophia, which would have been more merciful, he sends her back to Arkham, which is like the worst
probably
case
would have
scenario
rather
for her.
been killed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about his prostitute girlfriend, who, of course, he dresses up as his mother in the final scene and says, "Good, you look incredible."
Tell me I did a good job, Mom.
What is going on here?
Well, we should talk a little about his relationship with his mom too. Like, of course, and this actress, I thought she did a good job too.
Yeah.
Well, we get a payoff on why he knows Spanish, which is that he pays his Spanish landlord to watch over his sick mother.
I don't know if that's why he knows it, or he just.
I would assume.
I like that. Yeah.
Why He's just a man of culture. Yeah.
Hey, what does rada alada mean, by the way, while I got you?
Yeah.
Oh, senor, it means bat.
Oh, it's La Rada. Oh,
La.
I said L. Sorry. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Well, that's a big plot point in the movie, right? Is that the Riddler purposely said law instead of L as a part of the clue, right?
Exactly.
It's been a minute since I've seen it. I might have to watch it. Did every time an episode ended for you guys, would HBO be like, do you want to watch the Batman? Because every time I'd be like, no.
Oh, yeah, sure. Did you guys rewatch the Batman at all after watching
I did not.
So
I might have
to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I rewatched it somewhat recently, like back in the spring. So yeah, it's a good movie.
Jacob, I always love do your impression. Whoa, don't show me that. Whoa.
Yeah. Why are you showing me that?
Hey.
Yeah.
And I thought, he was
harmonizing.
so good in his limited screen time in that movie. That's probably why they're like, we need to make a show around this guy.
Gets
He's so good.
the shot, which is his reaction to the fucking Batmobile. I think that's the scene of that movie, basically.
There's that big car chase with the Batmobile.
The flames. I mean, it's so fucking iconic.
Mm-hmm. Best scenes of that movie. But Rada Lada. But yeah, going back to his mom, like the whole beginning of the show, through Vic's point of view, it's like, oh, he just cares about his mom. He wants to get her a big house in the penthouse. He's doing it because he loves his mom. And then once we learn the twist, it's like, oh, this has been hell for her entire life. It really reframes everything we've been taught.
You guys are right. He is the POV character in that he is the audience surrogate who's like, oh, I see all the things that makes him a good guy. And you're ignoring every red light, every fucking horrible, where you're just like, no, Victor, like look at his relationship with his mother. It's not normal.
Right. He's doing everything for his mom. You feel bad for him because, like, his mom, of course, has dementia. So at times she doesn't know who he is. She gets confused, all that stuff.
The boys were in the bath. They didn't want to get out.
Oh,
that's like a foreshadowing too.
Saddest scene, Mike, when she says she's been in there for hours. That was horrible.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so
And again,
when you
his
reframe that with the twists, everything is like, whoa.
yeah,
That's good.
and his relationship with his mom, again, it's very Tony Soprano coded. If you know anything about The Sopranos, his mom, it's a little different because his mom in that show is like basically a sociopath who hates her own son. And that's why Tony is kind of in therapy, because he's kind of, he was raised by a woman who like has no emotions, and eventually does put out a hit on her son. That's the sort of the finale of season 1, where she has all these perceived slights against her son. He's never good enough for her and that kind of thing. And eventually he's warring with his uncle Junior.
What if Mike
And
and I only watched that
the
movie?
prequel, yeah.
Yeah.
Just that one.
That movie's not very good. I'm sorry to tell you. But James
Oh, jeez.
Gandolfini's son plays young Tony Soprano in that, so it's kind of interesting.
Well, he also plays young Penguin in this, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different because the mom character in this is more sympathetic than in The Sopranos, but it's a very similar dynamic where it's like he feels like he's doing everything for his mother, and it's never enough for him. She never tells him that she's proud of him, and that's all he really wanted.
Ask a prostitute at the end, tell me you're proud, mommy. That is
Yeah.
very
Put on this
intense.
dress that my mom wore
Yeah.
and dance with me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like maybe Sopranos, the mom had no emotion, and this, the mom has emotion, but raised as sociopath, right?
Yeah.
And they try to
Human
frame it
emo.
like she's almost seems like in the beginning the show makes you want to believe she's motivating him, like, go do that crime, buddy. You're my strong boy. But it turns out that's not really what she's feeling at all.
Far from it.
Kind of a prisoner. And
Yeah,
literally
of course
one at the end.
she suspects, or she knows from when he was younger, that he did have a hand in killing his brothers, and she sort of always knew that deep down, and that's what this whole thing with the psychiatrist kind of reveals.
Right.
And then eventually almost had him killed by Rex Calabrese, but then goes back on it at the last moment.
She calls it out. That was literally my next question. Why doesn't Rex go through with it?
Because I think
She
so.
calls it
They
out.
go out and dance, right? And it's this memory that we keep going back to in the show, where she took him out to the club to dance, and I think what he says to her in that scene makes her change her mind, where she's like, well, maybe he's not all bad or
I'm
something.
gonna take care of you. Incredible scene in that we had the previous flashback where a younger actress played the character, and then we're sort of off kilter. We're going, why is the older mom in these memories? And then when you get Dr. Rush talking to her, just incredibly written scene. I mean, and for her to self-narrate through those moments of delusions, I mean, it is very one of a kind.
She looks in the mirror, she sees the young version of herself, but then it's the older actress talking to Rex, who's still young. So you're like, what's going on? But it's all sort of a flashback in her mind.
Right. And when we finally get the confrontation with Oz, and she's like, I fucking know you killed him. I hate you. She's like, I got the devil in my house. And she stabs him with a bottle. And even Sophia's like, this is going a little crazier than even I expected at this point.
Yeah. But remember, she's like, if you don't, like, all Sophia wants is for Oz to admit what he did, and to admit that he killed his brothers and he's done all this bad stuff. And she's like, I'm going to chop your mom's finger off if you don't admit this. And then he still won't do it.
Yeah. He does.
He would rather her not have her hear that than to, cut her finger off. It's crazy.
Because that's the only way. Like, otherwise his whole fiction falls apart. Like, if he doesn't have his mother, I'm doing it all for her, then like his whole worldview falls apart. Like,
I'm doing what's best for you, and what's best for you is to lose a finger.
And his mom says, I've known the whole time, and he still can't admit it out loud. Like, he can't say it out loud. Yeah. He's like almost deluded himself in his mind that he didn't do it. Like, it wasn't his fault.
Doing it for you, Ma. Yeah.
That's kind of maybe how, I don't know if he's a sociopath or what, but that's kind of how someone would think. Like, he's rational. Any decision he makes, he can rationalize it to himself to be like, well, I had to be that way, basically. Even when he kills Victor, it's like, well, I had to do that because I care too much about him, and he's going to bring me down. So of course I had to kill him.
Can't let you be corrupted. I'll kill you.
So everything he does, it makes sense to him, even if it's like evil.
refusing to pull the plug on his mom just to set her up in a penthouse to look out a window. It's like, "There's everything I promised you. You got it." And then she has that
He
tear,
did.
and it's like, this is horrifying.
Yeah.
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 So again, it's like, yeah, make villains wrong again.
Yes.
He's a bad person, and he remains a bad person by the end of it. He's not even an anti-hero. He's just
No,
villain.
he's not. This is
Yeah.
not a show about an anti-hero. And that is the biggest rug pull, I would
Mhm.
say, by that final episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only arc, like the main arcs of this show is like Vic to a degree, and then Sophia is the biggest actual character arc. Penguin doesn't have one. He's the same guy
No,
in episode
he just
1 as he
remains
is in
the
episode
same.
8. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This is
Emmy
why I
talk,
want to do.
do we want them? I'm obviously Christine Milioti. I would love to see her get Best Actress.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. I
That's
think she's
interesting. Yeah,
incredible.
because obviously it's sort of a genre superhero thing. So maybe the Emmys or whatever awards, they'll be like, well, that's, whatever. We're too good for that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that her and Colin deserve nominations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about, so of course, Agatha, this other show that was on at the same time. On the, at first it doesn't seem like they have that much in common, right? But they actually do, because the main characters of both are very similar, with Agatha and Oz, who are both bad people, and you're kind of waiting for them to change and become better people throughout the show. And that's kind of the whole thing with Agatha, where it's like she keeps telling you who she is, and you keep thinking, oh, maybe she's redeemable, maybe she's redeemable. By the end, of course, she does sort of sacrifice herself for Billy. So in that way, you could say she's better than Oz, because she doesn't strangle Billy or let him die.
Right. Yeah.
But she has, that was on the table. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
certainly was. Yes.
But because she has sort of her motherly instincts, I guess, compared to Oz, who just doesn't care about anyone. So,
But in the
it's
same
just
way that it
contrast.
is Cobb all along. I mean, you're so
Yeah.
right,
Wow.
Jacob. Yeah.
It was Penguin
Yeah.
all along. Yeah.
So they're really very similar characters, even though they're very different in tone and subject matter. But they're both villains. They're both bad people who pretty much stay bad. So it's kind of interesting.
Agatha would, until the one moment of not killing Billy, murder a lot of people, step on a lot of people to continue.
To get more
existence.
power, basically.
Yeah.
But she wants magical power. Oz just wants power within the city.
To go
They
back to
both
her
want
giving
more
that
purple.
speech.
They're both purple characters. Yeah.
They
it's
both want
crazy.
purple.
They are. But her giving the speech to Billy saying, you didn't let, 5 people die. You let one person live because I was going to kill all those people anyway. It is it reconciles with the exact same attitude that Oswald has this entire series, right?
Yeah. So I just think it's funny both those shows were kind of on at the same time and competing, Marvel versus DC, Magic versus Grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
But they're kind of
Like,
just about the same.
Here's the thing. At the end of the day, Thunderbolts is a team of quote unquote villains that are they're not going to achieve anything close to what this series achieves of villainy, of evil, of
No, because they're all
wickedness.
anti-heroes. Like they all have
Yes.
sympathetic
It all
sides,
goes
like,
back to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
like the Winter
we know-
Soldier or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Venom in theaters now, or very soon out. Kraven the Hunter coming soon. Like, keep villains evil. Like,
Yeah.
it's way more compelling.
Yeah, I mean, you've literally got the Disney machine of, like, on the live action side, like the Maleficents of the world, where you're like, well, who is Maleficent? Well, she's the villain of Sleeping Beauty, and it's like, well, not in this film.
Well, how can we make her?
It is a very human feeling to take a character and go, but there has to be something good in them. And again, what is so stunning, and I think why so many people are having so many issues with this finale, myself included, is that we all just feel completely betrayed by a guy who, again, at every moment was like, this is who I am. I'm not tricking you. Yes.
It was Oz all along.
It was Oz all along.
I think
that's
my favorite thing about it.
Yeah.
That's
the thing, is that as humans, we have a natural, we want the protagonist of whatever we're watching to be, we want to identify with them somehow.
Yeah.
So, of course, we had this era, again, The Sopranos. We had this era of anti-heroes, Walter White, Don Draper. They were bad people in certain ways, but they had redeeming qualities. Sopranos, again, really started this with Tony Soprano, where it's like, this guy is a piece of shit who would kill you for like $100. And we're supposed to identify with him as the POV character
He's
in this
actually
show.
kind of complex.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's complex, and you actually start to like him because he can be funny and personable and likable. But then you're reminded every once in a while, and the show had to do this, where he will kill someone in cold blood, and you're like, wait a minute, this guy is evil. And that's kind of
Right.
what Oz is doing here. And so again, it all, not to say it's all derivative of The Sopranos, but I mean, a lot of it really is if you watch The Sopranos. So I don't want to take it away from this show, but
I also
yeah.
think there's a cultural zeitgeist, the Jungian collective unconscious, where we all sort of, society taps into something that is the mode, the feeling, the overall hanging in the air, right? And I don't know who was president when Sopranos aired. I think it was probably the Bush era, right? We were kind of losing trust in the government.
Yeah, it would have started in the
Right.
Clinton era, but then became the
Oh,
Bush era.
sure. So the rise of the anti-hero. I think now, with the Penguin literally being our president, I wonder if we will start to get, as a result of Trump, maybe some just straight up fucking villains. And, as a society, we'll just be like, yeah, that is what it's like.
Bad people are bad people sometimes and not
Yeah.
redeemable. Yeah, maybe that's the message we're going to get into now.
Right. Well, and the scary thing about it too is that like some people watch The Sopranos and were identified with Tony Soprano, be like, this guy is cool. Like, I like him. He's what I imagine myself to be, kind of like everything he did, like he had to do to like get more power and stuff. So I feel like, is there people watching The Penguin and being like, you know what? Oz was right. Like everything he did made sense. Like he's trying to get more power, because there are people that are like selfish out there and just don't really care about anyone but themselves. And they're like, no, everything that Oz did totally made sense from his perspective.
Yeah, it's
but
like, well, people
just a bad person. I don't know.
Yeah, people identify with Walter White like as the hero. It's like, no, that's not
that
the
People
message.
that say like,
that bitch
Skyler,
just get out of his
you
way.
bitch, let him sell drugs. Where you're like, but
Yeah.
it's wrong to sell drugs.
And the whole point with Breaking Bad is that he was always a bad person from the beginning, because like he never had to do all the stuff he did. Yeah, he got cancer and stuff. If you remember, like in the first couple episodes, his rich friends were like, hey, we'll pay for like your treatment and everything. But he took that so personally. He's like, no, I don't need your fucking charity. Like, I'm going to go start a meth empire to pay for
cancer is an excuse to break bad.
Yeah.
So
that's why who he was the whole time, basically. I am the one who knocks. That's what, that's whole pivotal scene is about. So and I think people sometimes miss the point about Breaking Bad as well as other stuff. It's, sort of a media literacy thing.
Mm-hmm.
But,
So
across the board. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Work on that, please. Look in a mirror, people, if you have media literacy issue. But this, at least, to just definitively be like, do not like this person. We get so close to Vic, and we're like, man, I want. He lost his family. I want you to get big gang money. Just be careful, Vic. Like, I want you to make it. And then it's like, no.
And that's what's crazy, because that would have been the safe ending, where it's like,
yeah,
he did all this bad stuff, but you know what, Vic, you can see his sympathy, his empathetic side with Vic, where he really cares about him, and he would never do anything like that. It's like, nope, he actually would.
Yes, he would. He's the Penguin.
And he's cold. He's a cold, flightless bird.
Yes.
But and that's what I absolutely love about this show. Episode 1, here's a bad guy. Then you, maybe not. No, here's a bad guy. Here's a bad guy. You still don't believe me? Here's a bad guy. And like, that's just a really bold way to do it.
Right.
Without the same ending. So, yeah.
We're kind of winding down here. Before we head off to our final thoughts, is there anything else you guys want to shout out? Any performances, characters, storylines? I was shocked by Magpie. I'll just say that, as someone who really thought there would be no references to the Batman mythos. That was exciting to me in a weird way.
That's Magpie, sort of a minor character within the Rogues Gallery, right? But still cool that they have these, subtle Easter eggs and stuff. And like,
I guess the other Doctor, along with Dr. Rush, was supposed to be this character called Mirror Man that I'm not familiar with, but I guess they've got the same name. And then Jacob, you brought up Squid.
Mm-hmm.
They're all very like obscure. There's
Rex Calabrese is a character in the comic. which is crazy.
Of course,
Wow.
Sophia Falcone and Alberto Falcone and the Hangman is a real, and all this stuff. But you don't even get like a Victor Zaz or something like that where it's like
No,
somewhat
which is
obscure. But
Vic.
but typically the easiest one to, yes, Vic. But Victor Zaz is like, even Birds of Prey did it. Even Nolan did it as an unnamed guy at Arkham with all the scars. Like so
Right.
many times people are like, well, he's the most grounded, an actual serial killer. We could slip him in there. But this kind of ballsy and fearless
or
to
a
be
Harley
like,
Quinn
no.
or a Dr. Quinzel in
Oh,
Arkham
that
Asylum or something like
boy, that
Oh,
would have been shocking.
As the
I guess.
psychiatrist.
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
The
They maybe didn't
only
want to do anything to mess up possible future stuff for the movies, so they didn't want to be like, we don't want to get tied to like a certain actress that could be Harleen Quinzel or something.
I would assume it's a Lady Gaga thing, that there's just kind of
Oh, yeah.
things are off limits because they're shuffled around because DC's so weird.
Or a Margot Robbie thing because she's such
True.
a popular version of the character.
We got the quote from Colin when the movie was made, where the dictation coming down from the people up top, where he said, "I wanted him to have a cigar." And apparently WB has a full policy now where no characters will be shown smoking, in the same way that they have this policy of no action figures that come from any WB properties can have a gun. So if you buy a Peacemaker toy, he has a sword. A guy whose superpower is to shoot guns.
Right. Well, the smoking thing is funny too because it's like, yeah, this guy kills people and will backstab you, but we
Killed
can't
his
show him
brothers.
smoking.
He'll burn,
Yeah,
light
we
you on
all-
fire.
Tobacco, the evilest thing possible. You're like,
You can show,
but
dude,
they do
you can show people doing
drops.
fake drugs like drops and bliss.
mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Harm
one other
others,
thing.
but self-harm. No smoking. That's bad for you.
Never. Didn't you guys think up until the reveal that the reason he knows about the train yard or the abandoned subway system
Underground.
is because he used to play with it as a kid?
Yeah.
Didn't you think that was going to tie into the Batman? Because if you guys recall, his Bat Cave is that abandoned train yard. The subway system is Robert Pattinson's.
Oh.
So
I
just
thought that was just
overall
sort of a
question to you
reference
guys.
with the penguin, like Danny DeVito's penguin living in the sewers and stuff.
I don't know about that. But did you guys even for a moment ever think Battinson would show up? I guess I knew it would be the bat signal, but part of me was like, maybe he will appear the whole run.
I don't think so
Hmm.
because I think that would have been somehow leaked. Like we would have known about it beforehand on the internet. Like there's no way they could have kept that secret. I think.
Right. And they were pretty. Matt Reeves was like, he's not going to be in it, which people were like, yeah, wink, wink. But truly, Matt Reeves was like, no, I'm not kidding.
Right.
That
but it's
penguin
like
is a bad guy. I'm telling you. Like we don't believe you.
yeah, it's like with Spider-Man when they're like, oh, Andrew Garfield's not going to be in,
Right.
No Way Home.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
like, of course, everyone on the internet knew that like he was like seen on set and stuff, and there's all these leaks and everything. So
Yeah.
if there was something like that, like I think it would have been, we would have found out before it
True.
aired.
Okay.
So, and I
Yeah.
think I don't know why he couldn't have been in it just as a cameo or something, but I guess just scheduling stuff.
I don't think Robert Pattinson wants to do TV. I don't.
Just
I
as a
don't know.
cameo, he doesn't have to be in
I
multiple
think it
episodes.
would have cheapened the show. Even a small cameo, it would have taken the
Maybe,
focus
but it would have
away.
answered my question a little bit of like, where the fuck is Batman? Like, why is he not Batmaning?
There's
Like when multiple gangs are like meeting up in the open and stuff, they're not always like looking over their shoulder for Batman, which they really should be doing, right?
well,
Yeah,
you'd think these people would be
honestly.
horrified. I think there is a Penguin subreddit, but just in the DC Cinematic, which is a big community online, there's a still, I don't even think it's ever featured, of a newspaper that's in one of the offices, and they blew it up on the subreddit, and it's a political cartoon, or I guess just a parody cartoon, that has Commissioner Gordon turning on the bat light and saying, I guess this thing's broken if he's not showing up. So it seems like in universe they acknowledge that he's sort of disappeared
missing.
as well. Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't
So
know.
maybe that'll be with the next movie.
Maybe. Yeah.
I saw some of the promotional materials for the movie. It's interesting because like obviously the first movie had this very red
Yeah.
color scheme. The new one has very blue. It seems like they're going for like a winter vibe with like snow and stuff. So people are saying, Dr. Freeze, something like that. Seems very like Batman Returns.
You gotta ice
Yeah.
up that flood. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much water.
A lot of water reference. Yeah, it's even Vic. He's like, people got no power in the Crown Point. They're freezing. So
Right.
freezing, literally.
But I think because it's I think taking place like pretty much right after the first movie, the next movie is, and from what I've read just from online and stuff. So obviously, if that movie was set around Halloween, this could be sort of a winter Christmas type of seasonal movie. So that'll
Didn't
be
you want
interesting.
one scene where Colin Farrell talks to a goon or somebody else and goes, "Hey, how about that Riddler guy, huh? That's fucking crazy."
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Penguin.
That's pretty much
That's the Penguin.
Should we
That's
hit
the
the final
Penguin.
thoughts?
Let's hit the final thoughts. Put this thing on ice.
Hey, why you showing me that?
I gotta rewatch that actually. I think
Yeah.
because of
How do you
Colin
think he
Farrell.
got those scars on his face if they're not from Catwoman? They
Want
look
to know how I
like a
got
cat
these
scar.
scars?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I'll
Joker
tell you.
style.
I don't
Probably
know.
just
some
getting caught,
gang
getting
stuff.
interrogated. They cut his face, and then he somehow got away because he's super
Yeah,
lucky. I don't know.
some mobster. Yeah.
Yeah. Just,
All right, well, we're back. We're talking the Penguin here
Mhm.
on Normies Like Us. Wow. We've taken off our monocles. We put on our top hats. We're wearing our tux and tails.
We're on top of the penthouse. Yep, ready to
As we
go.
saw in a flashback, he's obsessed with this old black and white movie of a guy tap dancing or whatever.
Oh yeah,
That's why he wanted to wear the suit, you know?
That's right.
yeah. I have a question, guys.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell's Penguin or Heath Ledger's Joker, who wins?
Who, like, if they win against each other?
No, not if
try
they're
to
battling.
out-scheme
Like
each other?
as far as performance, does this have a chance at
That's
unseating Heath Ledger?
It's hard
Not
because
for
it's
me.
a TV. Oh, really? Because it's so much more developed with the TV
yeah.
thing.
I mean, I like him
Yeah.
a lot, but I have to give it to my guy, the Joker, because I just love the Joker in The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger. I think it's one of the. I mean, he won an Oscar for that role, and like,
Mhm.
Tone.
you know, it's one of the best ever. Like, and sort
Yeah.
of shaped like every like interpretation of the Joker after that. They're like, well, we have to do something either different from that or try to like emulate that or in some way. Even the cameo of Barry in the
Barry
movie.
Keoghan.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is a horrible performance. We can all agree on that.
Yeah.
though,
Well, it's
right?
so short, it's hard to even tell what it's supposed to
Yeah.
be. But I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling that too much.
No.
But I mean,
Yeah.
not to take away from Colin Farrell as the Penguin because I think he's great, but you know, he's limited screen time in the movie, and then he's like you said, it's sort of almost a different character in the show where he's a lot more developed. So I
Yeah.
do like him a lot, but it's hard to compare him to my
It's
guy.
it's physically it's astounding. Where do you
Yeah.
fall, Mike?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's more of like just a question, really. I don't know what the answer is, but just maybe it's recency bias, but it's definitely one of the best comic book villain performances of all time, if
Yeah.
not the best. It is very
Because
nuanced
again,
and
it's
it's
an
a little
actual
unfair.
villain. Yeah.
Well, here's the
Yeah.
question:
The
this
Joker people
Penguin
still
or Danny
identify
DeVito
with.
Penguin?
Oh,
Oh,
that's unfair.
you know,
Can I have
it's,
them both?
again, The Monster is like my favorite movie of all time. It's like it's very
Yeah.
hard for me to turn away from.
Right.
But then it's just like
I had a name, Oswald Cobblepot.
it's the craziest. The issue is that our minds have become so clouded with Frank Reynolds that we're all not realizing how astounding that performance is too.
Sure.
I mean, it's so one of a kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe a little underrated. The Penguin's getting some shine now, maybe, you know? People
Yeah.
go back and watch the Danny DeVito, we go watch Adam West, you know, see some
Watch your
Penguin.
show. It was great. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You saw the show. Oh, Danny, that means the world to me.
I don't think anybody's going to like about the end of it.
Remember when we were in Dumbo?
So you got to watch this.
We're going to talk about the elephant in the room.
autocomplete interview. They're on YouTube.
Yeah.
They
elephant
get
in
different
the room.
celebrities to do these, but yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know. The Penguin,
Well-
man, he's good.
he's a Penguin guy. I guess for my final thoughts, I really, really liked it. I think the writing's really sharp, similar to Agatha. Like when you get the twist, it makes the first
Yeah.
half of the show stronger, and it gives it a lot more nuance.
Yeah.
I haven't
And
seen The
let's,
Sopranos, so, you know,
But Mike, let's talk about that real quick. So obviously, Matt Reeves did not write this show. You know,
Oh yeah, the
this was
showrunner.
pitched to him. The showrunner is Lauren LaFranc. She
Yes.
has not showrun before. She has not created a TV show before. She wrote for Chuck on NBC and the previously mentioned
Sorry,
Runaways.
my favorite actor, Zachary Levi.
don't say Shazam to me right now.
No, don't say it 2 more times.
I just love his political views, man.
I know you do.
Uh,
But
Oh man.
it's another one of those things where what's the Chernobyl guy, Jacob? And I know you hate that guy, but
Craig Mazin,
when people brought up Craig Mazin,
Last of
how
Us.
could somebody write? Yes, thank you. How could somebody write this who wrote, like Deuce Bigelow or whatever the
Right.
projects he wrote?
Epic
was?
movie
Like
or whatever. Yeah.
writers try so hard and spend their entire careers trying to do something. This is, I mean, God bless this woman. This is one of the most iconic things in the world. And you guys, Mike, you shared that makeup video and you specifically shouted out and said, God bless they're keeping BTS stuff and making ofs alive. The thing I love about HBO, as they try to do with every show, Game of Thrones, the previously mentioned Last of Us, is when those shows end and they do those interviews with the creators, for 10 minutes at the end, or the episode breakdown, basically, Chris Hardwick style, where they basically try to be like, well, when I did this, or, you get a little bit of Colin talking about it. I eat that shit up. I think that is so cool. Anytime anybody does that, I wish every show would interview these people, these creatives. So God bless her.
Yeah, they do like scene breakdowns or stuff, like how they shot it, sequence. Yeah, that's great.
Well, I knew when I
Absolutely,
wrote this
I love that
twist,
stuff.
and when I read that what I had to do to Victor, and it's just interesting to hear how it is a job, it is a process that they have to,
And I want to say
out
too,
these things.
yeah. And you shouted out the showrunner, Lauren. What'd you say?
LaFranc.
Lauren LaFranc, obviously a woman, which I think is notable because I think it gives the whole Sophia subplot a lot more sort of authenticity, that it is written by a woman, that someone that can understand her perspective probably more than a man could. And I wanted to ask you guys this too. Of course, speaking about Agatha all along, the other show that we just did on at
Jack
the same time as
Schaefer,
this
also
show.
a woman. Yeah.
Jack Schaefer, right? WandaVision as well. So 2 women showrunners. And I wanted to ask you guys, which show do you think is better overall? Which show did you like more? All that stuff. For me, I'll let you guys go first, but yeah.
Well, I also want to point out that as we're talking about these 2 women-run shows, that in this one in particular, it dispels the thing. I don't think David Chase for The Sopranos, I don't think he's an asshole. I think he's held in pretty high regard. But like the Matthew Wieners of the world, the Mad Men, who sort of like got canceled, or eventually it sort of comes out how difficult
Joss
and
Whedon.
what assholes, that's a great one, Jacob, are behind the scenes. You don't get that with these 2. It's interesting that they write these incredibly complex shows and are good people. It is proof that you can be that. But
David Chase, mentioning him is interesting because I actually watched this documentary about him that was on HBO that just came out recently. Very interesting documentary about
you
the
really
show
like
Sopranos,
that.
and and he was actually sort of hard to work with, according to the writers on the show. So not in a Me Too sort of way, or that he did anything bad like that, but just a very could be an asshole, could be very a perfectionist, and be like, if you didn't like your work, he would fire you, that kind of thing. So just a very perfectionist showrunner, which was kind of the prevalent way to run shows, and it feels like maybe that's changing a little bit.
They were hiring, it's what these people wanted, was they were like, well, you can only have these antiheroes written by these huge assholes, and you're like, okay, well, I guess that's
it's
good.
The vision of what's so interesting about The Sopranos is that it was such a singular vision of this one guy. Yeah, they had a team of writers and stuff, but HBO really just let him do whatever he wanted, and they would always try to change certain things about the show, and you say, no, it's like my way or the highway, basically. And that's to some degree what made the show so great, but it also can be not the best working environment if you're a staff writer on that show. So maybe, shows these days, maybe they're a little more collaborative or a better working environment.
And the Breaking Bad guy, whose name I forget, incredibly collaborative from all reports. Because obviously Peter Gold, his writing partner, he was just like, yeah, go do whatever you want with Saul. I don't give a shit. And Better Call Saul was this
Yeah.
love
Right.
child of somebody else, basically. So yeah.
Yeah.
But to answer your original question, I had a lot more fun watching Agatha, but I do feel like this show was so one of a kind. But I do like Agatha better, even though we kind of spent that entire episode, Mike and I being like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, I like this more than Agatha. I think it has better pacing. It makes use of its 8 episodes more effectively than Agatha. I thought Agatha did drag a bit. And I need
Dragatha?
more
It Dragatha it all along?
Dragatha
Dragatha.
all along. Yeah, that's good. Um, I just like this. Again, having not seen The Sopranos, maybe it's less original to someone who's seen that, but to me, this was like super fresh, super well written, and I need more Sofia Gigante in my life. There's
Yeah.
100% more
Please.
Sofia Gigante in this show
Fucking,
compared to
I'll
Agatha.
tell you who's the hangman every time I see her. Ew.
Yo.
First of
Episode
all,
4. Yeah, good work.
Dragatha would be a great name for like a drag queen that was
Absolutely.
like Agatha Harkness
It's my
queen.
drag name.
That's right.
But second of all, it's interesting you say that, Mike, because I sort of disagree with that a little bit. I had the
Ooh.
opposite opinion where I do like Agatha better as a show. And
Okay.
I thought my biggest weakness with this show is that I thought it did have pacing issues at times, and I thought it's a little repetitive in sort of like certain scenes. Like I think it didn't need to. It could have been condensed a little bit. I felt like they were sort of
Okay.
repeating certain beats throughout the
That-
show.
Back to how we watched it, I couldn't imagine binging this, Mike. I was perfectly fine with how Jacob and I watched it with a week. You did it daily. I did a weekly where I was like, great, and then I can decompress and do another one, and that was fine for me.
Yeah.
I just had to see what's going to happen next with the crazy adventures of Oz Cobb. Like at the end of each episode, I'm like,
Right.
all right, keep it
Yeah.
going.
But I think I don't know. Agatha to me,
This guy's crazy.
it's
What's
a
it
little
gonna do
better
next?
paced actually, because it's like the way each episode ended with some kind of crazy reveal or cliffhanger, which this show does to a certain extent. And I like this sort of slow reveals of the different backstories of the characters. Like that's all pretty well and good. But some of it sort of became like like the scenes I didn't like the most were the scenes with his mom at times when it's like, oh, his mom's having some kind of dementia thing going on. It's like they did that a couple times. I was like, okay, I get it.
Right.
And then just the sort of constant like double crossing and stuff. It just at times felt a bit repetitive, but I overall liked the whole story. It just like it maybe could have been like 2 episodes shorter.
Okay.
But that's
Agatha
just my
ends with twists. This show, pretty much every episode ends with a double cross. And by the third
Yeah.
one, you're like, okay.
It's
Right.
like a spy movie parody almost. I was a triple
Yeah.
agent for the CIA,
Yeah.
FBI.
Really.
yeah. But overall, I liked it. And I guess maybe it's partly the because I think The Sopranos and The Wire are such good shows, and it's hard not to sound like like pretentious about it. But to me, this show is good as much as I like it, and I think it is good. It's not quite on the level of those shows, and it is inspired by, you could say, derivative of certain
Right.
elements of those shows. And so maybe it's just because I've seen those shows that I feel like this one, it's not as fresh and original as it is to you, maybe.
Right. It feels original to me. You also just spawned a top hat and a monocle because you're now an elitist
Wow.
living in
Yeah.
a penthouse.
But I don't
I
think
get that. That's fair.
I don't think it sounds snobby and elitist to say those are your favorite shows. I think we've moved to the territory where it's incredibly normies like us
Mm-hmm.
to say you like Sopranos, you like The Wire. Those are extremely popular. People very much put those in those high echelons.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
as the entire premise of our show is, it's that way for a reason. Like it's
That's totally it.
undeniable.
Yeah. I mean, those shows both came out in the 2000s when the TV landscape was very different. And again, they essentially created the golden era of TV that we're still pretty much living in.
No, we are in
we're
the copper
post-golden
era of
era,
TV now.
Yeah, no
We're
more, yeah.
like the radium.
But
We've regressed.
serialized shows like that were not like really a thing in the the 90s were sort of a dead era of TV, right? They just had like police procedurals and stuff like that. But when The Sopranos came out, there was really nothing like it, and it changed the game. And of course, those 2 shows, The Wire and The Soprano. If you see like a list of like the best TV shows ever, they'll always be like at the
Yeah.
top, right? It's become cliche to say like, "Oh, The Sopranos is the greatest TV show ever," but like you said, it's so commonly said because it's pretty much true.
Yes, it
And
is almost a fact.
yeah, and
Right.
I think those maybe have a bad reputation if you haven't seen The Wire. You might think, oh, it's like boring and like too, again, too literary or like something like that. But it's actually really entertaining, even though it's like it is very deep and it has like a lot going on, but it's still entertaining in a moment to moment basis. So I think just if any normies out there, if you've never given those shows a chance, I would try them out because they are super entertaining, super well crafted stories.
Right.
And it's not
Yeah,
to shit
but
on
we should
the Penguin at
also
all.
warn
Yeah.
our listeners. They're gonna get pretty frustrated when they watch The Penguin when Oz Cobb is sitting in that diner and it suddenly cuts to black. I mean, that's very annoying.
Yeah, yeah, very controversial ending to the Penguin.
Right, I've heard.
Yeah.
But
Just a small town girl.
oh, I thought it played the Linkin Park drop.
That would be
Michael Bay
that would
style.
be hilarious. Michael
That would be
directed by
wild.
Michael Bay.
What I've done, it's very
Yeah.
fitting.
What I've done.
Yeah, The Sopranos.
But my dream is that like Colin, maybe you'll start watching The Sopranos and be like, you know what? On the next watch, you'll be like, I started watching The Sopranos, and Jacob, you were right. It's great.
I don't like mob stuff. I, of course,
I know.
did The Godfather this year when I had a crisis of life is too short. Finally, I could see it happening one day. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, here's what I'll do next watch it, Jacob. I'll dress up as Colin, and I'll say, "You're right, Jacob. I enjoyed watching The Sopranos."
Wow.
I'll just
That
give
would-
you the
that's just
experience.
everything I want.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll appear in a fat suit, so that'll be a really weird episode we record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'll
Good
I'll
artists borrow, though.
dress
Great
up
artists
like
steal.
Sophia.
So
Yeah.
they stole from
Yes.
this. I was saying, but yeah.
My final thought is Google the twist in sugar. I want more people to know what that is. So.
Okay. I'll check it
I'm
out.
gonna read
Colin
it, but I'm
Farrell
not
had a
gonna say it.
really weird year of TV.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Look that up. I'm not gonna read it.
Did you just now? Don't say what it is on air.
I won't.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it on air.
Okay.
But I'm
It's
shocked.
completely insane.
Yeah. I'm more shocked than the end of this
When
series.
was this on? I never even heard it. It was on
It
Apple
aired,
TV.
I think, a month before this. I mean,
Apple TV is like a dead zone for me.
it's
Like I
subscribe to
Elephant's
so many,
Graveyard. Yes, it's
so many streaming shows. You would not believe how many streaming services I pay for because I'm an idiot. But Apple TV is like the one that I don't pay for, even though I kind of want to now because they have this show called Silo with Rebecca Ferguson. I wanted to watch.
if you start telling me you're watching Silo, I will truly think you've lost your mind.
Well,
Yeah,
you
maybe
know,
I'll watch Sugar.
Well, Dune, and we were saying the content must flow, but
That's
Prestige TV. This is my last question. Who is more evil, Tony Soprano, Walter White, or Oz Cobb?
right. In terms of just number of people they killed,
Who's the
I
baddest
think,
guy?
Tony would win.
Really? He kills that many people on that show. That's
Directly or indirectly through being
Wow.
a mob boss. But yeah, a lot of people die in that show.
Who has the least empathy for their fellow man, Walter White, Soprano, or Penguin?
Probably,
If you said asshole,
Probably the
I would
Penguin.
say Walter White. He is truly the biggest asshole on the planet.
Walter White, yeah.
Because at least Oz is charming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, like Oz, he believes that everything he's doing, like there's a reason like behind it. Like he's doing it for a righteous reason. Even when he's having like 10 people in the prison killed at the same time to stop them from talking and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Lighting
never
people
believes
on
that he's a
fire.
bad person. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, food for thought,
I just read the Sugar.
Did
Yeah,
you look at
keep
it though? Did you see a picture? Again, don't
I just
say
saw
what it
on
is.
Google. It says, "What is the twist in Sugar?" And then I
Okay.
clicked it, and it says,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's the twist." So that's
Yeah.
all the knowledge I have right now. That's
The
all
most
context.
insane thing anyone has ever written. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, we'll leave you with that, Normies.
Yes.
But we can say 2 shows this month in last month in October, Penguin and Agatha. We were all kind of like skeptical about both of them.
Yes.
Didn't know if we were going to watch them, and then ended up enjoying them both. So
Yeah.
hey, not
Yeah.
bad for 2 comic book movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And
Not movies, but shows.
Jacob,
whatever.
not to put you on the spot too much as the kind of the programmer of this podcast, because we really haven't talked about what our next one is. But I assume are we doing monkeys next week? I don't. Where are
monkeys
we?
will be in 2 weeks.
Okay. So
We have
maybe a
one
question mark for the next one, right?
Oh
A
wait, no.
mystery
Today's
surprise. Maybe.
today's the 18th. So next
Correct.
week, we can do monkeys next week.
Okay.
Great.
Well, we'll
Just
be
look at our
back
calendar.
with Alfred Pennyworth
of the
will be
Planet of the
appearing
Apes.
on this podcast for the
Yes.
first time. Yes, we'll be doing Rise of the Planet
That's
of
right.
the Apes.
James Franco,
Draco
John
Malfoy.
Lithgow. Yeah.
Can you believe that Oswald cures his mother's dementia with that weird monkey gas?
Yo,
Yeah.
that's right. Oh man.
No, I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah, I'm excited now to know that I'm going to rewatch this
Oz.
movie this week.
I remember
Right.
you and your brother. What's that
Yeah,
monkey
Peng-
doing?
He cured, and then they were doing experiments on Alfred Pennyworth to cure dementia. That's
Bright
amazing.
Eyes. That's your name, Oz. Ain't that right?
Bright Oz. Yeah.
Bright Oz.
Right on.
Because you're wicked smart, Oz.
You wicked spot with those bright Oz.
Oh my
And
god.
that's maybe in December we'll do a Venom, Craven the
Postmortem?
Hunter double episode.
Boy, that would
On the
be
theme
wild.
of keep villains villains. Yeah, maybe.
Yes, that's
Way
an
to go the
interesting
opposite way.
pitch. Normies
Yeah.
right in, of course, at Normies_like_us. Where you can give your opinions on Penguin if you watched along. We want to know, where do you vote? Is Agatha better? Did you watch that last week? Is this better? Write to us and rate, review, subscribe. It helps the podcast out a lot, but also we just really like hearing from you. And of course, check us out on YouTube as well.
Yep.
That's right. Check us out on
absolutely.
YouTube. See our beautiful faces, and yeah, let us know if you liked Agatha or Penguin better, or if you like both. I like both.
Mhm.
And here's a hot take too. I like the Acolyte better than Penguin. That's probably
Whoa.
unpopular.
I
thought, but
like the Acolyte better than Agatha, so I guess I am in the same boat too. Yeah, interesting.
I stay on the Penguin show. It's impressed me. Maybe it's a Sofia Gigante issue though.
Yeah, I
well,
would say.
I love her.
But look, I
Um,
got to manage a Quinto issue, my buddy. So look, it is where it is.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, tune into YouTube to check out these fucking t-shirts and stuff. Look at Jacob's Batman t-shirt. It's fucking
Yeah, man.
badass as
Funko
hell.
Pop.
I've got an official The Batman T-shirt, which I bought
love it.
at Warner Brothers lot when my family was visiting me last year, 2023, I believe. We took a studio tour of Warner Brothers. I like to do the studio tours sometimes when I have family visiting or whatever. And I bought this shirt in the gift shop. So there you
Fucking
go.
Colin Farrell zooming by you in a car.
Sorry, mate.
Sorry, mate.
Sorry,
We
mate.
got, Batman Beyond fan film came out that people seem to be stoked about. Just
Is
shot
that
at
true?
Funko. Yeah,
Oh,
came out
really?
like
Oh,
recently.
cool.
So
Okay.
look that up on the internet.
Well, shit. Probably
Yeah.
horrible, as all fan films are, but interesting.
I've been seeing
Probably, yeah.
positive buzz, but I haven't seen it yet. So who knows?
Okay.
For all your
That's
bat-related
great.
things, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
We
El
love
Rada
Batman.
Lada.
Rada Lada from your hosts here. That's me. I'll let you be Falcone because I'm going to be the Hang Colin.
Oh, that's good. Mike Maroney.
And this is Jaws Cobb, but you can call me the Penguin.
Give me one more, Jacob. Hey, oh,
Hey, why are you showing me that? Get that out of here.
Gotta
bye.
mix the flavors together. Vic, you
Bye.
did good, Vic.
It's not a suicide, Vic.
No cilantro on my tacos.
It's like soap to me.
Some of the balls soap in my mouth. Stop picking.
Nothing.
Start
Good stuff.